The Oregon City Commission, and today is Wednesday, March the 3rd. Good evening. I'm Alice Norris, the mayor.
James Nacita, Commissioner.
Doug Neely, Commission President.
Kathy Smith, Commissioner.
Daphne West, Commissioner.
Please stand and join me in the flag salute. This is a very special evening. It's always a pleasure to administer the oath of office to new reserve officers. So we would with potential reserve officers Jason Thompson, Robert Libke, and Daniel Moyer. Please come forward. Where's our chief? Who's it? Oh, you're doing that. Okay. Lieutenant,
You are doing it.
So I just want to introduce my three new reserves, just graduated from the Reserve Academy, what did we do, February 13. And they're just going to start after tonight. They'll go out on the road and learn how to become a police officer with training officers. So this is Rob Libke. He's a graduate from Marshall High School in Portland. He works at Oregon Steel Mills. Jason Thompson, graduate from Evergreen High School in Washington. He works at Clackamas Landscape. And this is Danny Moyer. He's a graduate from Estacada High School, also has an associate at Clackamas Community College, and works at Harvest Thriftway in Estacada.
You know, since we have a student in the audience, I'm wondering if you could tell us the difference between a reserve officer and the other officers.
Well, my reserve officers don't get paid. That's the bad part.
Hey, put her there. Same way.
They do everything that we do, basically, but this is not their full-time job. But they come out, we train them to be a really good backup is what we do for a regular officer. So a regular officer can be in a police car and have one of these guys with them, and if a bad thing happens, this guy has been trained to take care of that situation. But they don't get paid. They do a lot of my volunteer work, like we have the Teddy Bear Parade coming up. They do those things. They do the Pioneer Festival, and they do a lot of community events. So they're my community policing officers, basically.
You are very important to the community, and we're pleased that you've decided to take this on. So if you would raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, and state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the state of Oregon, and I will, to the best of my ability, faithfully perform the duties of Reserve Police Officer of Oregon City, Oregon, during my incumbency thereof. Thank you. Welcome aboard. Did you all get your pictures? Come on.
Get your pictures.
Oh, stand over closer here. Okay.
Mike in my
Got it? Okay. Thank you very much. I think you get those. As most of you know, we've been engaged in a very exciting process over the last several weeks, searching for a new city manager since our Larry Patterson is retiring at the end of this month. And I'm pleased to say that we're very close. We have two very skilled and highly qualified candidates under which we're doing some due diligence right now. So we have one from the state of Oregon and one from the state of Washington. So we hope in a few days' time that we'll be able to announce a new city manager. So that's the process for that. Now let's move into citizen comment. Do we have any speakers? they on there? Okay. Harriet Schul and William Gifford, if you'd both please come forward. When you come to speak to us, we have a 3-minute limit. We know that you can tell us what you wish to on a non-agenda item during that period of time. You can self-monitor here on our clock, and we ask that you introduce yourself and tell the city in which you live. Ladies first, I guess. Huh?
Schul, and I'm actually a county resident, almost out to Carver. But I just wanted to announce that the Friends of the Oregon City Library, because the library will be moving someplace, whatever, they are cleaning out the books. We are having a big book sale. And the big book sale will be on Friday, March 19th, Saturday, March 20th, and Sunday, March 21st on regular library hours. Most of the books and magazines will be cleaned out, and they will be for the magnificent sum of 25 cents. Whoa. There might be a few that we will allow you to have for children's will be 10 cents. Wow. And the regular will be 25. Of course, we'll skim some of the really good stuff off for the bookstore, but that's beside the point.
Chris.
And can I give one of these to Nancy for the bulletin board? Next to the library.
So it's in the Danielson Mall, right next to
In
the
the
library.
Danielson Mall. It has a leaky roof right now, so it's a little, it would better not rain between now. Hard.
I'm sure it won't. I'm sure it won't.
Next weekend?
Weekend after next.
Weekend after next.
Is that it?
That's it.
Thank you. William?
I'm waiting for the clock to reset.
Okay.
Oh, I'll take advantage of it now before it starts.
You bet.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Commissioners. My name is William Gifford, and I live in Oregon City. And as Secretary of the CIC, the Citizen Involvement Council, I just want to take the opportunity to express my great pleasure at the reactivation meeting of the Hillendale Neighborhood Association, which we completed last night. I would rate it as a very successful meeting. We have established a chair in the person of Ray Gordon. We have a vice chair in the person of Steve Anderson. We have secretary slash treasurer, Willie. I'm sorry, I've forgotten Willie's last name. Seems like I did this last time, but I was going to hope to get them down here to introduce you, but that will happen in time. And I have assumed the duties of the land use chair for Hillendale Neighborhood Association. And our next meeting will be the next first Tuesday of April, whatever, I think it's the 6th, whatever the first Tuesday of April will be. And so we're happy to get the neighborhood up and going again. And where our guest speaker last night was Steve McAdoo, the PIO of the Clackamas County Fire District. And he gave an informative presentation to the neighbors attending, and it was a good meeting. And we're happy to have that as another reactivated neighborhood association.
Thank you for your efforts in reactivating all those new neighborhood associations. Is this your
We're working
third
on
or
it. This
fourth?
is number 3.
Number 3.
Number 4,
coming up.
tentatively will be the Gaffney Lane Association. So.
Thank you very much. Is that it for citizen comment? Okay, thank you. Then we will move on the agenda to looking at the agenda. Is there any commissioner that wishes anything rearranged or pulled off the consent agenda for any reason? Seeing none, then we will take the items in the order in which they are listed. And I assume that many of you have come for the next item, which is to receive public comment on the purchase of Eastham School as Oregon City Library. As you know, we must leave Danielson's, where we have resided very comfortably for a long while due to the changeover to Safeway. So the library must have a new future. So this is a night when we have an option before us, and we're eager to hear from our library director, Maureen Cole, and then, of course, we want to hear from you, too. If you've come to speak, we appreciate if you fill out a card so that we can know the order in which you will speak. Oh, excuse me, Commissioner Smith first.
I am actually an employee of the Oregon City School District, and so I, under advisement from our attorney, will not be a part of the deliberations for this decision, so I will remove myself to the audience.
So you will sit, but you will not vote on this. Thank you. and that is due to a conflict of interest. Thank you. Okay?
Honorable Mayor and City Commission, well, this is really loud here.
Go.
Yeah, so tonight we're continuing our discussion about the possible purchase of Eastham School. I've put together yet another rearrangement of the information in order to help further our conversation. And let's just see here. So just to give a little bit of background, the Oregon City Public Library, as we know, just celebrated its 100th birthday. And since its founding, it has been in 3 different locations. The 3rd floor of the Masonic Building for about 4 years, the Carnegie Library for a very long time, 82 years, and then Danielson's Hilltop Mall for the last 15 years. Oops, backwards. There we go. So as far back as 1954, the city acknowledged that it needed more space. The Carnegie was too small, and that was listed in the city comprehensive plan that year. And the alternatives to the Carnegie for different sites and different buildings were studied as early as 1978. In addition, we have the current need of our lease ending on May 31. So our goal needs to be, I think, find a new home for the library, preferably a permanent home for the library, and developing a plan to meet our space standard, which I will explain a little bit here. Now, I know you don't like acronyms, Commissioner Nocita, and OLA stands for Oregon Library Association, just so you know. And that's the statewide organization that looks to the national organization that helps us in our daily pursuit of managing and running libraries. The Oregon Library Association has adopted some standards, recently updated in 2008, just to help us determine, and the people that we work with, if our resources are sufficient for the services that we want to provide. Obviously, facilities is one of those standards that falls under this very large document that can be found at this website. And you know, there's many criteria, but they should be conveniently located, easily accessible, and so on. It's important to note that in the intergovernmental agreement that we entered into with the formation of the library district, we agreed to meet threshold standards. Let's see if I know which is the right. Okay. And threshold standards include, you'll see down at the bottom of this slide, for a population of 50,000 people plus, you have 38,750 square feet for the first 50,000 people, and then for all those people after that, you add 0.61 square feet per capita. So our population of the service area that we serve is about 58,000 right now, which is 43,630 square feet. And so I just kind of round it down because that sounds so big. I just round it down to 43. In addition, there are a lot of other things that you need to provide. So some very obvious things, such as meeting ADA standards, having areas for the staff to work, and that kind of thing. All right, the next several slides I have prepared is a list of the Oregon City's efforts towards getting expanding their space, acquiring stable funding, and trying to find a permanent home since 1954. And this particular section I have copied, and there are copies of this part in the back that people can look at. I'm not going to go through all of these because, as you will see, if I go the right direction, this goes on for 5 pages up until the current time when we're exploring another possible site, which is Eastham School. And I want to go back just one. Okay, under 2002, 2003, the poster that I did not bring with me. Jim, could you have it? She says, right to me now. There we go. So I just wanted to show everybody this. This is a poster that has some of the results of some of the site studies that were done at the end of the feasibility study in 2002 and 2003. This study started off as just being a library site study, and it expanded to include the City Hall and the police, which is another trend that we've tended to see around here, because those are needed facilities as well, taking care of one lately, not the other two. And so what this shows us is that at that time, they were looking at criteria, which are still very good criteria, existing buildings that might meet the program requirements, adequate on-site parking, transit service access. Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you so much. Central location. They were looking at joint use because they were looking at more than one site at their building need at that time. Potential reuse of existing building, encouraging vicinity redevelopment, budget costs, and funding opportunities. And you'll see if you go over here, the 1, 2, and 3 top choices, the 2 top choices were hilltop sites at the current City Hall location, and the 3rd choice is Eastham. And I just point that out because it shows that as recently as 2003, we did go through a complete planning process, and Eastham was one of the top 3 choices at that time. So it has been vetted rather well already. Thank you very much. Backwards? I'm going backwards. Oops, sorry. All right. So to summarize all those 5 pages of efforts, we've had 2 space expansions. One time in 1963 when the Carnegie was expanded from 5,000 feet to 6,500 square feet. And then once when we moved into the lease space that we now occupied, which about doubled us because we went from 6,500 to 13,000 square feet. You can tell from that number that that's far short of what the Oregon Library Association recommends as the threshold standard. During that time, we also had some bond issues. One of them failed, and at least 2 others did not make it to the ballot. We had 2 levies for operational funding. One failed, and one was successful. The successful one was the recent library district that was approved in 2008. And the way I count it, and I could be off 1 or 2, but we've had at least 14 different cycles of investigating different locations, different sites, doing feasibility studies, and trying to work towards getting to a new building. All right, I keep on going backwards. Sorry about that. So that brings us to our current possibility, Eastham School, which is on 7th Street, right at the top of the hill from here. The size of the building that currently exists on that site is 48,650 square feet, which is rather large, and it sits on a 2.9-acre plot. The building was built in 1950. They've taken very good care of it. The appraiser said it was like a 25-year-old. And, yeah, I know. I wish an appraiser would say that about me. But no such luck. Yeah, I know. And then some seismic upgrades were done in 2005. All right, and I just keep on going backwards. I so apologize. This is an overhead view of Eastham. So it's that triangular lot right at the corner of where 7th turns into Molalla and intersects with Division. All right, so the offer that the school district is making to us, that they would sell us this building and the acreage for $4 million at the interest rate of 4.5%, $300,000 would be due at closing, and we would continue to pay them at the rate of not less than $300,000 for about 19 years after that. At that price, the price per square foot of the building is just over $82 a square foot. We currently have the ability to make these annual installments, and it's within the library budget because of the library district approval. And the city is also, out of the general fund, putting aside $200,000 per year for capital improvements for the library. All right. Now, when the school district considered what they wanted to ask as the selling price, they considered several factors. And part of it was the county assessor's market value, part of it was the appraisal, part of it was the cost per square foot, et cetera. And they landed on somewhere that they thought was more or less in the midpoint of the county assessor's highest market value in 2008, which was very close to $5 million, and the appraisal value, which was at $2.9 million. So if we went to Eastham, what would we do? we would probably, though I've spoken with the architect who's here in the building tonight, we would have to look at this in a phased approach. We don't have enough cash-ready funds to be able to remodel the whole building and develop a 3-acre plot of land into the perfect thing that would take some envisioning anyway. So what we propose as one possibility would to be remodeling over 17,000 square feet in the gymnasium area and that hallway. And cost would be $1.5 to $2 million. And this is a little diagram of it. Let's see if I can kind of show you. This is the gymnasium end of the building. The reason we've chosen to look at that specifically is because that area has a strong enough structure that it could bear the weight of stacks, which is optimal weight of 150 pounds per square foot. And so that's why we would open that up, take out the stage, and then open up this hallway as much as we could so people would walk in the front door right there and walk in here by the circulation desk, and there would the stacks would be. This would be circulation area. And then the rest of the building, the remainder of the building, we could still use some of these classrooms for staff work areas, volunteer work areas, presentation spaces, as well as we would have the cafeteria as a public meeting area if we so choose to do, which I think would be a good idea. All right, then 5 to 10 years down the road, we would do a more extensive public process to determine what is the best use of this entire space, how we could get the library up to the space standard which OLA suggests, and improve the traffic flow, add additional parking. At that point in time, we would probably, well, financing to be determined on that. We don't know, but that would cost quite a bit of money. All right, so other options and suggestions that have been floated are the Carnegie Center, Hilltop, Warner, Milne, and Red Soils. I kind of put them all together because they're kind of in that general vicinity together. Downtown, the end of the Oregon Trail, and branch model, which is not a location, but several locations. So just to kind of show you on the map, this is the current library, which is at Danielson's Hilltop. So that's the Hilltop. There's Warner, Milne. Red Soils campus is right by. So that's kind of that area. Easton is down here. The Carnegie Center is right here. Here's Main Street. And then the EOTIC is out here. All right, so the Carnegie Center. Obviously, this is a very beautiful building, especially since its restoration. It is now about 6,000 square feet. About 500 square feet were taken up, making it ADA compliant when it was renovated. At that space, it's an inadequate amount of space as a main branch of a library. So, therefore, one option would be to add on to it in its current location. If we did that, there would be a lot of issues. We would obviously destroy the whole park atmosphere of that block because it would take over most of the block to build a building in there. Could we ever provide adequate parking in that location? Would we even, if we even added onto it, could we get big enough to meet OLA standards? And it's a charter park, which has a restriction of not allowing a non-park building, which a library is. So just to show one of the reasons that people moved out of the Carnegie in the first place was this kind of crowding that was going on. I love this old picture. But people were pretty much on top of each other at the time, and that's one reason that we had to move. Or they had to move. I wasn't there. All right. So Hilltop, Warner, Milne corridor, Red Soils. You know, it is a good location. We've had great success on our current location and that general vicinity. The transportation-wise, that is not a bad location at all. However, if you look at what's available up there in the Hilltop Mall, we would be limited in how big we could build. Through my conversations with Craig Danielson and anything that would be at that specific mall, we would be limited in space to probably less than 20,000 square feet. If we were to want to build at the former City Hall, well, it's my understanding that's dedicated to a future police facility, so that's not available. The Walmart lot or the nearby lot that Rocky Younger owns, that is very nice land, but it's very expensive. It has absolutely no infrastructure on it, so we would have to develop roads, water, sewer, everything would have to be done to it. And as far as county, I've been told there's nothing available to buy or to lease at the county. So although that is a nice central location that has worked well for us, there's nothing there that's affordable or available at this time. Now downtown, other people have suggested that a downtown library would be the way to go. And some suggestions have included the Masonic Building or the Territorial Building right there on Main Street. The issues could include the proximity to the West Lynn Library. It's so very close to West Lynn. It's like right across the bridge from West Lynn at that point. And it would be nice to be a little farther away from that library. If we went into the Masonic Building, that building, I hate to say it, is probably not the age of a 25-year-old in a 50-year-old body. Probably a little older and probably would require a great deal of work and be very expensive. And I think that really anything downtown will be quite hard to expand into the size of what we would want our library to be someday. Now, the end of the Oregon Trail is an option that has been coming up a lot to me because the city already owns it. Again, it's not currently available because there's going to be a task force that's going to talk about what's going to happen with that. So it's not available to me today as an option. And it, again, is the charter park, thereby limiting what can be built in the park. A branch model is an idea that's been floated around for a long time, too. Now, just to let you know that when libraries typically have branches in other cities in Oregon, it's because they are either really big geographically or they have a very large population. So, for instance, like Eugene has 2 small branches, but they're over 150,000 people. And those branches are really small, too, I can tell you. Typically, you have a main branch, and then you add a smaller branch. Now, that's just, what is typical and what I recommend. Having no main branch at all, just having small branches everywhere, I think would really limit the services that we could provide to the people of Oregon City. It would mean that story times, presentations, a lot of those kinds of things would be very difficult. And because having multiple places where you need staffing stresses out, and you need more staff, so more funding needs to go towards staff, which I think we would probably really feel the pinch budget-wise. So that means that the branches that you do have would be restricted in the hours that they would be open. So I don't think it's a model that we should look at right now in Oregon City. Maybe once we have a main branch and we've got everything all figured out budget-wise and we think we could do it, it might be something to look at, but I don't recommend it. So in summary, out of the options that I've presented, and I realize I haven't gone into any great depth, but either they're not available, they're not affordable, we couldn't sustain them financially over time, or they're physically restricted in a way that Eastham is not physically restricted. So the financial realities, if we purchase Eastham, we will pay the school district $300,000 per year. So what I wanted to let you know was what the debt service was on bonds. And the way I chose these figures was if we built something that was about 16,000 square feet, I've been given an estimate that it would cost about $6 million or so. So if we map that out over time, 20 years, same interest rate as what the school district is charging us, that would be almost $500,000 debt service per year. On $10 million bond, which is what the police are thinking of maybe going for, it would be $768,000 a year. And then on a new building at 35,000 square feet, that would be $12.5 million. And this is without the land also. That's important to note. It's almost $1 million debt service. So in comparison, Eastham's starting to look pretty good.
Building alone, no land under it.
That's right. That's right. No land under it. So the things that the Eastham site provides is a permanent library home, which is something we've wanted for a long time. An ideal location, which has been previously identified by library planning groups. A very large parcel of land with capacity for more parking, another building, a park. There's a lot of things that we could do with that parcel of land. We would have a library that has been acquired without a bond measure. We would have a larger library that has been remodeled without fundraising or a bond measure, at least phase one. We'd have an investment in ownership rather than leasing, continued leasing. We would have space which could be used for community purposes. We would have space which could offer an alternative to some of the lease space that other city departments are using right now, such as community development. And we'd have great access because we're on the bus line. Some of the challenges that it presents is it's an older building which was not designed as a library. It's a very large space to care for, so maintenance would be very high. Renovating the building and the lot will require phases in order to afford it. And the second phase, the financing, is yet to be determined. So what I thought I would let you know is how I thought that this purchase would help you meet your goals as city commissioners. So the goal number one is to build a sustainable future, and reusing a building that we already have here in Oregon City would be a sustainable thing to do. Goal number two, implementing economic development strategy and maintain an environment for economic success. Locating the library at Eastham could lead to a redevelopment of that lot with eventual change to traffic devices and be a bookend for the city hall down here at 7th Street. Goal number three, addressing critical facility needs. Obviously, this is the goal that it meets the best. It would address the library's critical need as of May 31, especially. And goal number four, enhancing the livability of our community. It would allow for way more activities, library activities and library involvement in the community by having all this available space. Goal number five, increasing communications with citizens and facilitate citizen participation. The cafeteria would provide an amazing community meeting room with a kitchen. We could do a lot there. We would have land and space for recreation programs. There's a lot of possibilities there. And goal number six, maintaining fiscal health and long-term financial stability. It would allow the city to purchase a library home without a bond so that we could focus on our other needs. The possible time frame for how this might shake out if we look at this purchase, well, tonight is our public hearing. If we decided at this meeting to enter into a sales agreement with the school district, we still have to get through the school board's public hearing next week. Due diligence and inspections could start soon after that. We would have 60 days of due diligence, and that would end on 5/15. Somewhere in there, I think we could start zoning change, because as you will recall, that's going to be a requirement. The current lease up at the Hilltop ends on May 31, so we'll be busy moving while we're busy changing zones. And then I don't know when the end of the lease for the charter schools might occur, but definitely not until after their school year, so whenever in there. If we enter into the sales agreement as it is written today, closing would be on August 31, and that's assuming that our zoning change is successful. If we did a bunch of work ahead of time, we might be able to start construction in September, and the estimate is that the construction for remodeling would take somewhere between 3 to 6 months. So in about a year's time, we could probably be there. So my recommendation is that we enter into a sales agreement with the Oregon City School District to purchase Eastham School.
Thank you for that. Does the commission have questions before we open the public hearing? Commissioner Nocita.
I have one question regarding your presentation, Mo. You gave us a number on the annual contribution to the payment of this from the general fund.
Right.
Is that in our current budget?
Yes, that's in our current budget.
Other questions? All right, then I'd like to open the public hearing. Nancy, do you have a number of speakers then? Okay. I received an email that was a request to be read during the public comment time. So while you're organizing that, I'll read that. Dear Mayor Norris, during the 1990s, I served on the Oregon City Library Board. The move from the Carnegie into the temporary location in the Danielson Shopping Center had taken place. We commissioned a firm to prepare a comprehensive study of the facility requirements necessary to bring the Oregon City Library up to the recommended standards of the American Library Association. Their findings proved the new location to be woefully inadequate and recommended that we construct a building of approximately 40,000 square feet to meet the needs of the large population of Oregon City Library users who live from the Clackamas River almost to Molalla. The study is probably still stored at the library. Many improvements have been made recently to improve the quality of life in Oregon City. However, nothing could bring more pride to this city than a beautiful library which could become our cultural center. If the building is determined to be basically sound, parking adequate, and traffic safety issues addressed, I urge you to purchase the Eastham School and remodel it for use as the Oregon City Library. I am unable to attend the meeting this week, but request this letter be read during public comment time. Thank you sincerely, Marty Willauer. I'll have that entered into the record. Thank you. Okay. Okay, I will open the public hearing, and first on the speaking docket is William Gifford. We'll ask that when you come to the microphone that you watch this little timer here, and you can see when your 3 minutes are up. Then we'll ask you to summarize if you're not quite there. We'd ask you to introduce yourself by name and the city in which you reside, and then you may give us your opinion. So William Gifford, followed by Linda Van Haverbeek.
Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, my name is William Gifford still, and I still live in Oregon City. And I'm so happy I don't run for public office, so I have no political agenda here. But at the risk
All
of...
right.
Stop the clock. At
Pardon me.
the risk of not, I sincerely don't want to offend anybody, but I want to speak to the opposite side of this because I disagree that Eastham School is the best decision in the city's best interests. For a lot of reasons. First of all, from a business perspective, anytime entering negotiations, it's always best to be able to walk away from a deal. The only way you can walk away from a deal is to have a backup plan, and I don't see really a backup plan. I suggest that a backup plan that was not particularly mentioned was be in a holding pattern. There was a discussion in the timeline about, when we have to be on at May 31st, and when we're going to be able to be in. There wasn't a whole lot of discussion as to what's going to happen during that interim. I'm sure there's a plan for that, but that wasn't mentioned. And I'm suggesting that rather than jump into the Eastham School, that if we have a holding plan, then we may be able to strike a better bargain with the school district. First of all, I think that $4 million is a very nice round number. I don't know why we didn't offer 3.9. I mean, it's just $100,000, but $100,000 here, $100,000 there. Why not 3.8? I don't know how much counter offers were made back and forth in the negotiations deal, but it seems to me that $4 million is too even of a number. It's just too pretty for me. I have some other issues aside from the access of 7th and Molalla, which I think is a terrible intersection in the city. At any rate, the impact of the traffic on that was never considered when the improvements were made to the 7th Street improvements. The additional traffic load on the McLaughlin neighborhood, although the euphemism of it being a bookend sounds very aesthetically nice, I think that it's just a lot of extra traffic in an already overburdened neighborhood that is not particularly... the argument was, I'll drop that thought, the concept that downtown would be too close to West Lynn. I think that this is not much farther away from West Lynn. The fact that number 1 and 2 choices were up in the Red Soils Hilltop area speak to me very strongly that it needs to stay up there better. I think that I would certainly urge the City Council not to be panic-stricken about the fact that we have to be out of there by May 31st. I think if we have to have a backup plan to move into something temporary, things will be changing. There's going to be. We'll see what the new situation is up at the up on Danielson's property. We'll see what the new situation is with the police department. Salem has done a very nice job in combining their public library and their police force into a single thing. But most significantly, there's no business magnet. That a library is going to be able to attract business, and there's no other businesses other than Dairy Queen and Casey's Midway and Buttons and Bows, which of course would appreciate the traffic. But to me, you were laughing during some of my time. To me, I think that it would be better to locate the library someplace where it's going to be a better economic benefit to the city, and I just think that it's too much to pay, and I speak against it.
Linda.
Fast.
Good evening. Linda Van Haverbeek, Oregon City. I have a letter that I hope you got distributed. I come bringing the letter as a representative of the Friends of the Oregon City Public Library. We voted at our February board meeting to present you with this letter. The Board of the Friends of the Oregon City Public Library would like to urge you to begin the purchase process of Eastham School in order to provide the City of Oregon City with a library facility. The present site was temporary and at 13,000 square feet is inadequate for the needs of the library and the city. Eastham School at 48,000 square feet would provide the library with enough footage to meet the minimal requirements required by the agreement with the county. Furthermore, it's a beautiful site with potential and would reuse a fine building close to the center of Oregon City. We have reviewed the same information that was available to you. We believe it's the best site presently available. The sooner the process is begun, the sooner we have a permanent home for the library and full service restored. Respectfully, Board of the Friends of the Oregon City Public Library. And further, personally, I, as a board member, library board member, and a member of the Library Foundation, I would urge you also to move on this opportunity. It's good for the city. It's good for the school district. And I want to thank you for your time.
Next speaker, Paul Collins.
Good evening. I'm a parent here in Oregon City. I'm also a teacher in Portland, Oregon. A couple of issues came up for me. As a parent, my children have played in basketball leagues at Eastham and participated in preschool there and things like that. So I think the loss of Eastham, we might be losing other things in our community. I'm also very intrigued by the branch idea. I know that geographically, Oregon City is not very homogeneous. There's very distinct neighborhoods, and so having branches that can serve people in the Berry Hill area and in the Hilltop area and, in the historic district, I think is very important for us to look at. There are some very historic buildings such as the Carnegie Center, which could be a great branch, and there are other places that we could look at. We're going to be in a holding pattern. I don't know if there's an urgency to purchase the Eastham School, and rather than rushing into a decision that is maybe hasty, to sit back and evaluate that, I think is important. So, thank you.
All the speakers that we have. Is there anyone else that's come prepared to speak to us this evening? Okay, please come to the microphone and introduce yourself, and then we'll have you give the speaker, give you the card following.
Kimberly Wilson St. Clair, former chair of the Oregon City Library Board, a member of the 1996 Library Building Committee. I also was the Oregon City levy captain for 1997. I served as the chair at the turn of the century, and I certainly was well involved in the decision not to go with branches. We have a very comparably speaking, as Maureen Cole pointed out, we have a very small population to sustain multiple branches. We've just passed our county library levy. Congratulations to all of us, which has, in my opinion, saved our library, given us more hours, given us a fabulous new director, and we need to count our blessings here. I've been a mom and a wife in Oregon City since 1990. Lived in Indiana before that, so I'm definitely a citizen of this town. Lived in 2 different locations in the Berkeley Hills neighborhood, and my kids went to Eastham Elementary School. So I know that school very well, and we celebrated 100th anniversary there in the early 90s, and then we moved on to a multiple-use building, and then we seismographically corrected the facility, as far as I can see, in 2005, and this seems to me like the right place to go. I'm also speaking as a librarian. I'm currently a part-time librarian at the Lake Oswego Public Library, and I know about their history, about how they took almost 10 years to get their expansion in the first edition, and the argument kept going around and around and around about parking and traffic issues and so forth, and as we all know, that's one of the most popular and most successful libraries in the country. So I think it's time that Oregon City stands up and says, we're going to get behind our community library and give us a home, give us a place to call our own and to be proud of. And the Carnegie is too small. It's been too small for a long time. We don't really need to go down that road again. And I really feel strongly that we need to listen to our new director and her vision. She's a woman with vision. I've known Mo Cole for a long time. I have deep respect for her, and let's move forward. Let's move forward as a great city that we are. And Mayor Norris, I want to say I have so appreciated your term here and the work you've done in the city. Thank you.
Next, Tom O'Brien.
Tom O'Brien, Oregon City. My comments on this issue are basically that this seems to be one of the easiest decisions that has come before the City Commission in a long time. It's a proposal that is fiscally responsible. I have, for a number of years, had a strong interest in the improvement in our library system, to the point where I've suggested considering things such as, since we are trying to be a regional center, why not have a regional library? I'm almost embarrassed for the city that Gladstone is able to afford and has saved up money, evidently, to build a brand-new library. Tualatin, Tigard, everybody else seems to be able to afford the best. But if this is all we can afford, which it seemingly is, then I suggest that we move forward with it.
Thank you. Kim Kruger, followed by Jolene Vona. Or Vana.
I'm Kim Kruger with Oregon City. I seriously thought about not coming tonight because I feel like by the time it gets to this public hearing point, it's a moot point for the citizens. I feel like the decisions have been made. So I thought about not coming, but I decided I would. I feel like for our community, selling schools and closing down schools is going to affect people moving into our city. It's going to make the houses that we have sitting vacant continue to sit vacant because there's no people moving in because they're hearing our schools are closing and they're getting sold. I feel like as a user of the library, I don't use it a whole lot because I feel like it's closed all the time. Not to be negative about the library because I think a library is very important in the community, but I feel like the money should be spent to get the library open so that we can use it more instead of not having hours available. So that's what I have to say.
Jolene?
My name is Jolene Vana. I am a resident of Oregon City. My husband and I own 2 homes in the city. We pay property taxes on both. We have a primary resident and investment property. We've been here for 20 years. In the last 20 years, we have voted for in favor of every library bond measure that's come up on the ballot. And there has been a history of most of the bond measures not passing, it seems. We are passionate about the library. At any given time, we have between 30 and 150 library items checked out in our home. We have a family of 7, so we are passionate library users. I don't feel that this is a good idea. By the time this bond is paid, or by the time this contract is paid off, this building will be almost 80 years old. So maybe it'll be 80 years old with the body of a 45-year-old, but it will still be showing its age by the time it's paid for. And the idea of having a building that the city owns is, well, it'll be past its prime by then. Since we have a need for remodeling Eastham School to make it work as a library, and it's going to happen in phases, the money is not currently available. Why do we think that library bond measures are going to pass in the future when they haven't passed in the past? I think that we are dismissing the option of moving into the interpretive center too quickly. Just because the decision hasn't yet been made about what to do with the interpretive center doesn't mean that it's not going to be available in a few months. It was a wonderful museum. We visited it a couple times. It was the sort of museum, though, that you'd visit it once and you really didn't need to go back for a few years, unlike OMSI, where you could go every week and have a new experience every week. It was a great museum, but it was geared primarily to tourists, and we don't have that many tourists. Oregon City is really not a tourist destination. The interpretive center is large enough, there's adequate property, and the city already owns it. I'm not sure what the seismic condition of the building is and whether or not it could hold the book stacks or what degree of remodeling would be needed, but I think that the city needs to strongly consider that option before they move ahead with the Eastham School. Thank you.
Jan Salisbury?
I'm Jan Salisbury and reside in Oregon City, and I said I wasn't going to say anything, but I've heard lots of things, and I have been part of probably a lot of those 14 cycles that Mo mentioned that we looked at library places, and this is so exciting with the possibility that we have a permanent structure. Nothing is perfect, nothing is the best, but in all the things that we've done, this looks pretty good. And the dollars are great. I can't imagine a better thing for us to look at. Millions and millions of dollars to spend on things. If we can do it without doing that and still come up with a solution, that's fine. So we have a 20-year contract. That is a good thing, and it's a good thing not just for the city, because then we're not using a lot of money. We're not having a bond out there, and we're also supporting the school district because the money is flowing into the school district. Selling the school, not the greatest thing to do, but on the other hand, even though there's been alternative schools there, if I were moving into the district, I would know that that's not a school that the children would be going to. And there is another school available for these programs, and I don't know that that has been mentioned yet. Now, how that's going to work, I don't know. I'm not part of the school board or the school district. So there's a lot of things. The fact that we have looked and looked for a place, nothing has resolved. Mo did a very good job looking at a variety of things and also explaining why the stuff that's available now is not, or excuse me, the stuff that we've looked at is really not available now. It comes down to Eastham being the one that is available. And so I highly recommend that we look at that for just a lot of very good reasons.
Thank you. And that's the last speaker that I have. Do you have more? Is there anyone that all of a sudden feels an urge to speak?
Is this an appropriate time to ask a question?
Yes, yes, please come forward.
Hi, I'm Mary Norville. I'm Oregon City resident. I heard mentioned tonight Charter Park and that having ramifications for altering it. Who decides it's a charter park?
In the charter.
It's in our charter, that's what it means.
The city charter?
Yes.
So the city commission decides on it?
No, with the vote of the people. The citizens vote on the charter, which is a little bit about like the form of government we wish to have, and then the provisions of the charter can be changed by a vote of the people. Actually, Scott, would you like to explain, since you're the Parks Department?
He's
the director. Another question too?
Well,
Okay,
it's contingent.
Sure.
The question had to do with the End of the Trail Museum and how it's sitting there, kind of an embarrassment, empty, and as the end of the Oregon Trail and as a museum facility, I mean, the vision of being able to have a library facility with museum programs, perhaps, and grounds for people to come together, it would be lovely. And so what I heard tonight was that there's a timing issue, that there's a task force that is considering what to do with it. I'm not too sure what the market is going to be like for a building that's, shaped like covered wagons. But, to be able to work with that task force and to come together, and if it's just a simple matter of, renaming the park area, and the city owns the building, too. That's what I heard.
We do.
So these last couple of years have been hard on people. They've really had to cut back, put limits on things, and just, it's working with what you've got. And the fact that I live on Polk Street, which is the egress of the facility, it's going to have an impact. I feel really mixed. I also love hearing kids on the playground. And I love the idea that there's a community gymnasium. So anyway, I guess it really has more to do with the question of, is it simply just a timing issue with the end of the trail being considered as a viable location? Because it seems spacious, it seems, again, access-wise, very, very beneficial. So,
Thank you. Scott, would you like to answer the question about Charter Park and the end of Oregon Trail Interpretive Center?
Sure. I think you addressed the Charter Park issue pretty well already, Mayor, but just to, I guess, finalize that thought, it's, as you know, and I think a lot of people know, that the fact that it's designated, it's very, very much protected by the city's charter as to what we can and cannot do. So there are, as Maureen said in her presentation, we are definitely limited in what we can do on the grounds at the Carnegie Library Park with the Carnegie Center, without a vote of the people. And in terms of the end of the trail site, do you want me to just respond to her comments?
Why don't you do that, since I think we have probably some of the same questions?
Well, in terms of the use there, as you all know, we're going through a process right now of discussing that, assembling a task force. There will be a public process that will become publicized very soon, and we're working forward on a contract right now with a consultant who will lead that process, and with the commission working in step with that process. So I'm not quite sure what the question was there. We're moving forward on deciding.
I think the question is, would a library be an accepted use without a vote of the people of that property, since it is a charter park, and we had to vote to add the visitor center to it?
That really gets to become a city attorney question right there. I'm going to pass the torch, the hot potato.
Mr. Kabizman.
Thank you, Mayor Norris. And I pulled out the charter, and what it says, it identifies the various parks in the charter, and then says that the commission may not do any of the following listed acts with regard to any designated city park or part thereof without first obtaining the approval of the legal voters of the city. Said acts are as follows, and C is construct permanent buildings or structures thereon other than for recreational purposes and park maintenance. I think we had the conservative position is that libraries probably aren't recreational purposes. Gyms maybe, play structures, other types of things. But the question that we would face is whether or not a library could be constructed on one of these, on a charter park and be considered a recreational structure. I think the best option, if that is something the commission would consider, would be to go to a vote of the people to ensure that is something the citizens of Oregon City would want to do.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Wait. Question, may I just repeat, would you repeat the question?
The question was, the charter provision says that that the city can't construct permanent buildings, and the question was, could the use be changed of an existing building? One of those great questions. This is not something that's been tested, this provision of the charter of changing the use. The only buildings I'm aware of that have been authorized through votes of the people are the visitor center. I'm trying to think, there was also a sewer easement up on Singer Hill Park. Those are the only two votes that I'm aware of. There hasn't been a situation where the use has changed of a building that has been constructed on the site. It does say constructed. Would there be some, I think, any change in use to a library from the visitor center would almost certainly require a significant remodel of the facility, which may well implicate this provision.
Mr. Neely.
Just a couple of things. When the interpretive center was built, it was regarded as an initial movement. It was not intended to be anything more than a temporary interpretive center. It's already suffering from dry rot. Number two is it flooded in 1996. It's in the floodplain, and it's not a good location for a library unless you're going to build out of the floodplain. I think there'd be probably some issues of even being able to use that facility under those conditions.
You'd have to raise it.
Okay. Are there other public testimonies then? You've already spoken. Did you wish to? Okay, please, you need to come to the microphone then, please.
Just a question.
And reintroduce yourself.
Sorry, Paul Collins, resident of Oregon City. There was a statement that it was $82 per square foot was the price. Was that just the purchase price of the building, or did that include interest and remodels and things like that? And was there a comparison of the cost to staff branches, which would employ people, versus just paying interest and remodeling? Was there a cost benefit done on that as well?
There's been a cost benefit done about the branch stuff in the past. It was examined pretty well in like 2002, I believe.
Thank you. All right, I will close the public hearing, and then it's an opportunity for the commission to deliberate and ask questions. So who wants to go first? Commissioner West.
I see Mr. Thorne is here from the school district, and I don't know if we can ask any questions from the school district tonight.
Did you wish to make a comment, Mr. Thornstead?
Glad to answer a question.
Okay. If you have a question for him, we can call him up.
I'd like to know what where the public hearings have been with the school district on this. I was on your website today, and I was trying to click on I think last month's meeting, the February meeting, and it came up August of 2009. It did say it was on, well, that's okay, but it did say that you're going to have a public testimony the next meeting coming up here on Monday, but I didn't know if you've already taken some, or what's the status of...
Please come and then reintroduce yourself, Ted. Nice to have you here.
Ted Thonstead.
Sorry, I got the name wrong.
Director of Operations for the City of Oregon City and a resident of Oregon City. So the school district has not had a public hearing on the selling Easton to the city for use as a library. We plan to do that on Monday at our meeting scheduled for that night.
Any other questions before he goes back to his comfortable spot? Okay, thank you. Other questions or deliberations or motions that you wish to make? Commissioner Neely.
I'd actually like to respond to several points that were made. I happen to agree that my preference would have been for a hilltop location for a main library. I think it is more central to the district. We've explored that, and those opportunities really don't seem to be there. Regarding branch libraries, I've got no issue with branch libraries in the future, but I do believe that we need a main facility. For children's programming, for a children's library, I think it's essential. I think it would be very difficult to operate a good children's program out of branches. One would be because of human resources, having the people to run them. The second, the reference library of the library is heavily used contribution to the library services there, and that would almost require to have a dedicated staff person and would be at a large facility. I have no problem with concepts in the past, particularly given the size of our district is huge, of having branch libraries, perhaps eventually some of them extending out much further beyond our city limits, since the district is beyond our city limits. I have the same concern about schools being closed in the neighborhood I live in. It's McLaughlin neighborhood. It's in the Barclay, the Easton, and the old high school. I think there's probably some good opportunities as future growth occurs in the older districts to look at the old high school again for school use, and I think that is being looked at. The question came up about this few operating hours of the library. Of course, that was true 2 years ago. That is no longer the case. The operation hours are now what? 50. We were down to 23, I believe.
At the worst time.
At the worst time. And if you're referring to that period of time, nobody was happy about it, but the library is actually open a good proportion of the time at this time, and will continue to be so. I mean, we're able to do that because of the operational levy that passed. Regarding the age of the facility and what it will be at one time or another, it's been an expensive effort, but Multnomah County library system is regarded one of the best in the nation, and its main facility, of course, downtown, is an extremely old structure. It really is based upon the values of the community on how they want to treat old structures and how they want to preserve them and use them. And then I've already covered the interpretive center. I don't think we could use that for almost any function of this nature simply because it's in the floodplain and it has flooded.
Okay. Commissioner Nocita?
First, Madam Mayor, I'd like a clarification. Are we now in item 7 on the agenda?
Public hearing?
Yes, we are on, let's.
I would comment, I was commenting two people on the public hearing. I think it was
Yes, no,
I think it was an okay thing.
Yes, no, we were, yeah, they really blended. So we've received the public comment, and then now we're into the decision-making mode. So, yes, we are on 7A, which is the consideration of purchase of Eastham School for the library, getting down to the decision. So, Commissioner Nocita.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have a couple of things to say, and first of all, I want to thank everybody who came tonight very much. It's nice.
Microphone over a little bit, Jim.
It's very nice to come to a full.
There you go.
How about now?
That's better.
I want to thank everybody for coming out. This is, obviously one of the large decisions we as commissioners have to make, and I appreciate the public input from both perspectives. I'm going to start what I'm going to say, and if I can indulge my colleagues there, I may take some time at this because I've been thinking about it very hard. I'm going to preface my remarks by saying that at this point in time, I'm favorably disposed to purchasing Eastham School as our library. I will also say that I have some concerns that prevent me from voting on it tonight, and if the Commission chooses to attempt to vote on tonight, I will vote no. So let me go into my discussion. It's going to be in two parts. First, what I see as the positives of Eastham School. I do recognize the fact that we are time sensitive and in a need to get out of the current library situation up on Hilltop. I've had some very good discussions with members of the library board and members of the public on this and their views on Eastham. I see Eastham as a very positive move for a couple of reasons. One, the need we have for space and the ready availability of a building with that space is very good. The condition of the building, as far as seismic upgrade, appears to be quite good. Location-wise, I went on a tour of the building with Commissioner Smith and Commissioner Neely several weeks ago, and was a couple of things impressed me about the site. One, the intersection there I see as kind of from a city building point of view, and as kind of a nice connection point of a lot of thoroughfares in the city, and we have a plan for a roundabout there in our transportation plan. And I think something really nice could be done there from an architectural standpoint. I also think that, although I heard a different take on it from one of the neighbors tonight that has caused me to reconsider this a little bit, but as far as providing a service to the surrounding community, I have been up in those neighborhoods walking, and some of those neighborhoods I think this city doesn't pay a lot of attention to. I'm thinking of streets like Roosevelt and some of the streets off Division. And being able to provide an amenity within walking distance for some of these neighborhoods that don't normally, see provision of amenities by the city, I'm really favorably disposed to being able to provide that for some of the citizens in that neighborhood. Another point is Commissioner West and I had the opportunity to attend a discussion last year by the president of the National Trust for Historic Preservation, Richard Moe, who talked about historic preservation and environmental values, especially, and he had this concept of what he called embodied energy, and that the most environmental building is the building that's already there, because energy went into production of the materials. The building it could be doing something with that building as far as architecture, doing something with the lot, the space there as far as architecture. I think there's a lot of opportunity there. So those are some of the reasons that I'm favorably disposed towards the building. Here are my two concerns. The one concern I have it relates to price. I really have difficulty with the asking price. The appraisal came in at $2.9 million. The asking price is about $4 million. Some of the questions I have regarding that are using the assessor's values to up the price. The property is not a taxable building. I don't know how the assessor arrives at deriving a market value for Eastham School when it's not based on the intent to assess it for property tax purposes. So I have no basis to judge that the market value for Eastham is credible, or that it is a basis to raise the price from 1.9 million. I'm sorry, from 2.9 million in the appraised value. And looking at the price, there's another really concern I have about the purchase price of the building, and this gets to some other concerns I have about facilities. I hear a lot, ever since I was elected, from citizens, in fact, before I was elected as a commissioner, about the history of this city in purchasing real estate for more than it is worth. I've heard that concerns. There are certainly going to be arguments on a lot of sides as to whether that concern is valid or not. But the concern is out there in the community. It was expressed regarding the purchase of this building. It was expressed about the purchase price for the parkland that was purchased up by the high school. There are many instances in the city where people have expressed concerns about how the city purchases real estate and the price it purchases real estate for. And typically these purchases are made on the Urban Renewal Commission or in this body, and they're not taken with a vote of the people. They're taken, just either as an Urban Renewal Commission or this body after a public hearing, but not taking such an issue out to a vote. Here's my concern with that in particular, as we witnessed our swearing in of our new police deputies today, and as I note the presence of the president of the Police Employees Association tonight. We're going to be asking the voters for a bond to build a new police station at this sometime in the future, whether that's soon or not so soon. What I really have an issue with and a concern about is that if this is not a good price for this building, if this is overpaying for a building, and that has been suggested tonight by some, and we vote on this again, and it reinforces the concern in the community about a pattern of paying too much for real estate, that when we finally go out for a police bond, which we are looking at a general obligation bond for that building of the police station, and it will require the vote of the people, that when the citizens finally do get the chance to actually have a vote on whether we spend money on something, that the residual concern about the historic past practices of paying too much for real estate will cause people to turn down that bond for the police station, even if that goal, that objective of building that new police station is a very valid one. So right now, I'm in the mindset of really, really scrutinizing how we approach this library purchase so that when we do so, or if we do so, we can give the people confidence that it was done right, it was an adequate price, it wasn't over purchasing for too much money. And I'm not there yet. I've got to say, I'm just not there yet. And I think it goes to some of what Mr. Gifford said, for example, is that we don't have a plan B in a negotiation, whether it's for the purchase of real estate or hiring a city manager. I mean, if you have two candidates, and you enter into price negotiations, you can say to prospective candidate, well, we got another guy that might take it for less. If we haven't developed a strategy where we can say to the school board, we think you're charging too much, and we do have Plan B here. I'm concerned that I will express my concurrence with Mr. Gifford on that. So my last point that I'm concerned about is process, and I have this goes to commission procedure and especially on this decision. We, as a commission, wanted to give this community a public hearing just to talk to you folks, get your opinion on how we were going to go about what you felt about purchasing Eastham School. As a part of that, I raised an idea and a wish with my fellow commissioners that in advance of this public hearing, we would post on our website certain background documents so that the people could be informed prior to coming to this public hearing, that they would have certain pieces of information that they could review and talk with each other about and chew over, and to inform any public comments. Some people aren't going to be interested in that kind of detail of information. Some people are, and it's just a political philosophy of mine that I want people to have as much information, should they choose to use it, to inform public comment, to assist us in making decisions. Some of that information got up onto the website. Some of it didn't. Specifically, there was the appraisal of the school board that arrived at the 1.9 million figure. I wanted up on the website, so you all could get informed on that. Sorry, I don't know why that sticks in my head. 2.9 million. We, as a commission, requested this, and the appraisal did not get up into the website until yesterday. For whatever reason. I do have a concern about it. I'm sympathetic to whatever obstacles there were to getting that information up, but the fact that that information only got up a day before this hearing troubles me. And there's another process question that troubles me also, and this goes to Mrs. Kruger's comment. I don't recall, as a commissioner, any indication when we decided to have this public hearing that we were also going to schedule a decision business item on this. My recollection of what we talked about was that we were only going to have a public hearing tonight. Then, all of a sudden, there was, and here we are, a general business item to actually consider making the purchase. I have a concern about that. I feel rushed. I didn't anticipate that this would be a decision item tonight. And that's another issue in Oregon City that I have a concern about. And I don't know how that evolved. It wasn't my intent when I wanted to have this public hearing. And the fact that this has been placed on the agenda as a decision item tonight, I'm really concerned about that. So where I'm going here is I've proposed to the commission that we discuss this in a work session. Again, I'm favorably disposed to Eastham School. Based on what's happened procedurally, I'm not going to be pushed like that. There's some more questions I have. I want to propose something to the city attorney if my colleagues are interested, and it goes to a comment one of our city manager candidates made. One of the candidates from Washington mentioned that in the state of Washington there's actually a statute that requires public bodies to sell surplus real estate at a very cut rate price for public purposes. And that seems to be the situation we're in here. I know that there are a lot of statutes in Oregon and Washington that are quite similar, and it might be an idea that we explore if Oregon has a similar statute, and if that would have any bearing on the price that is ultimately determined in this instance. So just to wrap up my long screed here, again, I'm very favorably opposed to Eastham School.
Opposed?
Favorably disposed to Eastham School. I'm not prepared to vote on it tonight. So thank you for your patience, and sorry about the long-winded discussion.
Would you respond to your comment about the cut rate price? The state of Oregon does, I'm not certain of, I don't know the Washington statute that city manager would be referring to. What I do know is that the way the disposal of real property by cities, the regulation of it requires before a body sells real property, they've got to hold a public hearing on it. There is no requirement for a public hearing if it's transferred to another public body. I'm not aware of any type of regulation that goes to the question of what the price is. They really leave that entirely within the public body's hands, to take into account whatever they feel is important, whether it's fiduciary duty, whether it's public public benefit, whatever things they might do. So I don't think there's any particular statute that would say direct the school district to provide a cut rate price.
Thank you. I would like to jump in here because we do not actually have a contract with the school district yet, and they have not held their public hearing. And I think it's impossible for staff to know whether we're ready to make a decision or not. Just because it's on the agenda doesn't mean we have to do that. So I think due to the fact that we have really need to respond to a contract that the school district needs to provide to us, that we can hold this over to our next meeting for a decision.
Madam Mayor, the fact that we don't have the sales agreement this evening, and the fact, too, that the school board has not held its public hearing, we're not expecting action from you this evening on this.
I would like to kind of go ahead and say that sometimes opportunity knocks, and I don't want to see opportunities back. I don't want to see opportunity walking away. And sometimes it happens when we least expect it, and sometimes opportunity isn't perfect. But in all the years that I've lived here, we've never had a plan B. In fact, most of the time for the library, we didn't have a plan A. And on this one, I do not see a viable alternative without going to the people. And I am absolutely delighted that a package was put together that doesn't require us to go to a vote of the people, so that we can preserve that for a police facility, something that's desperately needed if we can rehabilitate an existing facility. I like a partnership with another public body, and we can quibble over the price, but the fact is, to delay this is to raise the price. If the economy improves, real estate's only going to go up, and this may be, I don't know if it's a fair price or not. It is a midpoint price. If I sat on the school board, I'm sure I would look at my needs and evaluate that. It's very difficult. Often, I don't hear in the community that the city has overpaid. Often it's, well, you finally got around to it. For instance, the square foot cost for this building, for instance, is one of the lowest in comparable communities. And when you look at other facilities that we have rehabilitated or built in Oregon City, they're way more conservative than in other communities of our size. So I'm hoping that would be the case here. I like the fact that we're buying so much more than just a building if we do Eastham. And I have to put my prejudice on the table because my 3 children went to school there. I volunteered there for 13 years, so I know every nook and cranny of the place. It's a very solid building. In fact, there's a bomb shelter in the basement in case we need that during sometime. But I like the fact that it's 3 acres. That, to me, is a huge amenity, and maybe there will continue to be children playing on the playground. I think it can be. I like the fact that it's in a neighborhood, but yet has adequacy on the site to provide parking and it doesn't necessarily have to spill into the neighborhood. Is it my favorite location? No. I like Commissioner Neely would like to see it up here, up there, more on the hilltop, because I think that maybe is closer to some of our newer populations that use our library. But I like the fact that it could preserve an historic building. We're very high on preservation here. We've been just recognized by First Lady Michelle Obama for being a community that values its facilities and its heritage and uses them for economic stimulus. The other thing I like the fact that it's on a bus line. It's easy for people who really need to use libraries, can get there very easily. That it's ADA accessible already, that the school district paid for a seismic upgrade, and we don't have to. There's a lot we need to do there, but I think it can fulfill some needs for the city that just a single building in another spot might not be able to do. Is the price right? I don't really know that. All I know is the documents that are before me. But it's there's a lot of opportunity, I think, in that site. Commissioner West. Commissioner Neely. Pardon me.
Already spoke once.
You did. But his name is ahead of yours. So.
That's true. However, we went on to, I went on, when I spoke before, addressing issues that came up here, and I get to speak as many times as I hit this thing before the discussions terminate. When we come back to this discussion, first of all, I support you. I have no problem in holding this over, and I don't think I guess there's not an expectation that we'll deal with this evening. The seismic evaluation findings, I think, are really important, not only from the standpoint of being concerned about earthquakes to a library facility, but we have very few public facilities that we can use in case of emergency, where we may have to house people and so forth, especially the cafeteria below and so forth, that would be an excellent place, I think, to house people in cases of serious emergencies. And I'd like some kind of response to that. We do have this discussion about seismic evaluation findings, and I know there were seismic upgrades when Commissioners Rocky Smith and James Nasita and I visited the place. There were points made as to why we couldn't expand the library into some of the smaller rooms there because of the seismic upgrades that occurred. I do not know what seismic upgrades might have occurred in the portion of the gymnasium that we would occupy, that we're talking about, both the gymnasium and the cafeteria areas. And so I'd like maybe some more specific information on what might be required. And we may, in fact, should this pass, we may want to look to see if we can have additional funding for the work that we have to do to make it a library, what we might have to do to make it a facility that could be used for public purposes in a case of an emergency.
Commissioner West.
Well, I'd like to weigh in a little bit on this tonight, and I think some of the things I have to say has been said by other people as well. But so I echo from a green building perspective what Commissioner Nasita said, that the smallest energy or carbon footprint to keep is a building that you already have versus tearing one down and starting over. A plus that I like about using Eastham for a library versus some of the other options is this building already isn't on the tax rolls, so we're not pulling a productive, let's say another a piece or another building up at the Red Soils that's used for private business. We're not pulling something like that off the tax rolls. As Mayor Norris was saying, that this 2.9 acres and 43,000 square feet really have a lot more potential of 48,000 as a site bigger than a library. I could even envision in the future maybe a public-private partnership, brick condos, brick townhouses, a library village. I mean, this is just all kind of out there, but there's a lot of acres, and we could do a lot with it. Coffee shops. I also see it as, Commissioner Nocita was kind of saying, it could be a catalyst for some neighborhood reinvestment, and that might be nice. And it's a bookend for our 7th Street being down here is one end of the bookend for redevelopment in this neighborhood, and that would be the top end. I think it's, even though it wouldn't be used as a school, it's a chance to keep a neighborhood landmark, and it does have potential, even though we'd lose the gym, or potentially we'd lose the gym, it would still be a community center and other, with the cafeteria downstairs. And I don't know, I've lived here long enough. When West Lynn took down their old high school, it's sensitive to take down old buildings. And it also has another use for the city in the fact that the lower level we could maybe use for overflow for city offices as the city grows. And my hang-ups on it are with the price issue as well. I'm not sure the justification of your price from the appraised value to the middle of between that and a real market value. I know if I sold my home, I wouldn't get real market value today what it was worth last year or 2 years ago at the economic crisis. So I would like to hear a little bit more on how you came to that. And as far, and so we're talking money and being stewards, city council being stewards of taxpayer money. The reason I do like this money this option is because, as Mayor Norris was saying, we don't have to go to the public to pass a bond. We will gain 4,000 more square feet minimum, and without. Sorry. More entertaining.
Was that our city recorder who put the sign on the door that says no cell phones? Please continue with that interruption. Please disregard that interruption from our city recorder.
So we're the keeper of citizens' money, and so we want to invest it right. And same with. Oh my goodness! I guess I wasn't meant to speak.
It must be an emergency.
I was trying to see if we had our city goals up here, but. One of the biggest challenges we're facing is all...
Right there.
Oh, there they are. Okay, our critical facility needs. We just got our city hall built so that we can take off the list, but we direly need a police station, and Public Works needs a home, and that is one of the reasons why I voted for the Public Works plan that we had, because we did not have to go to the people. So I'm saving, in this economy, a down economy, and people without jobs, it's prudent to use our money wisely, and I think that this is a wise choice because we don't have to go to the voters for any more money, and I'm saving that for down the road when we need a police station, that there's no way $4 million can get us the correct needs for police. So, thank you.
Mr. Patterson.
Yes, Madam Mayor, just to address a couple of issues. First of all, in regards to the backup plan, I think Ms. Cole indicated to you the various options that are there for any type of permanent backup, and you can look at the pros and cons of those, and that's kind of what sits out there today. One of the other things, and one reason why there is beginning to be somewhat of a sense of urgency to make a decision here one way or the other, is we're going to have to do something in the interim. And depending on what that interim is, we have to know what that is to negotiate what that decision is going to be. Because it appears we're going to have to be out of the hilltop on the 31st of May, and this facility is going to be a while longer before we can move into, so we're going to have to negotiate something in the interim with someone, and we don't know what that is if we're looking at this permanent move or whether we're going to be looking at something that may be multiple years. So you might want to factor that in. In regards to the price, And my recollection, and Mr. Thornton may be able to help me on this, the assessor, I think, is charged with assessing all properties, whether it is on the tax rolls or not, because we have a lot of different uses for that information with insurance, definitely if you have disasters, kind of what that loss is. So they look at all buildings and try to provide some type of assessed value on that. And so that's where you arrive at those type of prices. School district, and we did sit there and we did talk about a number of figures. I think initially the school district was talking about quite a bit more money for this building, and we did negotiate on that, and we've looked at things even lesser this, and I think the school district would be agreeable to lowering the price, but if they lower the price, they want to increase the interest rate. So in the end, because the thing that they're interested in this decision is a revenue stream. And I think what we've put together here is not only something that's within the budgetary resources for the City of Oregon City to make this purchase, but it also provides the revenue stream that the school district needs if they're going to sell this piece of property. And that's how we arrived at the $4 million. So really the question is going to come down is, do you want the building, and is that a price you're willing to pay? And we can go back and forth, but I think the school district said this is their price. So that's where we're at on it.
Okay, well, I would like to cut the conversation, so I think you've obviously heard it and can take that back to the school board on Monday as you deliberate. You have 4 people very predisposed to consider it and have a few concerns, but I think you know about that. So would you like to take a break?
I have one more comment.
Oh, Commissioner West?
If I may. Commissioner Nocita was saying putting this on a work session. I don't know why this wouldn't be on the regular meeting where we could make a decision. That's where I think we will be at in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Well, but we may not have the work session next week. I think that's going to happen.
I'll talk to you about that on the manager's board unless you want me to chat about it now. And it really depends.
Why don't you chat about it now if that's important?
Well, with the exception of this issue, and again, we had not anticipated this going to a work session, and if you want that, then there may be a need to do that. But your regular scheduled work session for March is for next Tuesday. We're at an interesting point right now where a lot of things, we kind of have them either
in Washington, D.C.
We kind of got it wrapped up, or we're going to need to launch in some new discussions. And my thinking on that is you could do that, but it may be better at this point if you wait until your new manager's on board and begin those new initiatives with that person, with the exception of this issue. And I think this could easily just be held over to the next regular meeting, and you could decide at that point whether you wish to move forward. The reason it was on here, Stephen, we were anticipating we might have some additional information. Again, we like to have things there. If you choose to move forward, you always have the option to set things back, which you've done on many cases. So.
Yeah, I'll be in Washington, D.C. on the JPAC trip lobbying for money for our Main Street 5th to 15th Streetscape and Sidewalk program. So what's your desire to do about the work session? I think to hold it over when we can start fresh with our new city manager would be probably a wise thing to do. We have many, many, many things on the agenda, and I'm not sure there's anything that's urgent for any of us, so speak up if so.
Wait, I'm confused. Hold this over until the new city manager?
No. Hold over the work session. Just the work session. Right. So the next work session then would be the regularly scheduled work session in April. And we have also talked about having a retreat with the new city manager, so that's possible as well. We can talk about that in the future. So is there anyone who has a burning desire to see something that needs to be discussed?
Commissioner Nocita, couldn't everything that you're asking...
My concerns, I think I can address by my own inquiries with perhaps the school district and the assessor, so I'll pursue those avenues of inquiry. I do have a question, if you don't mind, Madam Mayor. I'd like to address a question to our Community Development Director.
The library?
Yeah, well, it's associated with the library, yes.
Okay.
Tony, the roundabout, Nancy Krushauer is not here tonight. So do you know where in the Transportation Systems Plan or the CIP plan, I'm just wondering about the timing, because there have been some concerns raised about traffic if we move into the library right away. And I think part of the reasons that roundabout was planned was to alleviate that type, some of the traffic concerns. And I'm just wondering where in the planning process, in the scheduling process, is that roundabout in our planning,
I think it's still rather preliminary. We have acquired some properties in that area for the land acquisition component that we would need in order to construct it. I think one of the things, as was pointed out, they still need to go through a zone change on that property, and we probably have a better idea once we start diving into the actual transportation requirements, if it's really going to be needed as part of this zone change to this use, or if that is more of a infrastructure, kind of a capital improvement project that could be coordinated with this.
Right, so we have the flexibility as a commission to move that up if we decide it's advantageous to move it up in the CIP plan, for example.
Yeah, yes. I believe so. I mean, without having Ms. Crushar here to know exactly how much funds are available and where that exactly is, I don't know off the top of my head where exactly that is in the timing in the capital improvement plan, if it's considered next 5 years or if it was 5 years and out.
Aren't we also undergoing a review of the TSP, the new Transportation System Plan, which also could also move that forward as conceptually?
So we're applying for a grant with a TGM grant with the Transportation Growth Management grant with the Oregon Department of Transportation, but we're probably not going to see that beginning until next year. Yep.
Well, that was a very good question, very relevant. Okay, we'll take a break until about 10 till. We have the second reading of Ordinance 10-1002, amending the 2007 Development Agreement between Modena Homes and the City of Oregon City. This is the second reading. Is there any additional staff information or any commission discussion? Seeing none, may I have a motion for approval of the second reading, please?
Move for a second reading of ordinance number 10-1002, amending the 2007 development agreement between the City of Oregon City and Modena Homes.
Moved by Commissioner Neely, seconded by Commissioner Smith. For the second reading, Mr. Geisman.
Ordinance number 10-1002, an ordinance amending a development agreement for 19038 South End Road pursuant to RS 94.504 to 94.528.
Thank you. Question?
I got a simple
Commissioner
request
Neely.
because there are people here that weren't here before. Could you just have a brief description of what we're talking about? It's basically creating properties to allow a nice intersection going across between.
Essentially, there's a situation on South End Road where we have mismatched intersections offset by a little bit, and there was a deal made with the property owner who was going to develop to allow the road offset to be corrected by going through this, and this allows for the funding of it. And what happened is that developer transferred it, or whether voluntary or involuntary, I'm not really certain, and this agreement extends the timeline and changes the parties involved and allows for assignment of the agreement.
Thank you. With that, Nancy, the vote, please.
Commissioner Neely?
Aye.
Commissioner West? Aye. Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Nocita?
Aye.
Mayor Norris?
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Next, we move into a request for the farmers market. Just jumped. For a request for $35,000 from our business license fund. We discussed this at our last commission meeting and asked for a little more time for us to consider it and for Jackie Hammond-Williams, the market manager, to perhaps develop the concept a little further. And so she's here, I see, to respond to questions. Did you have anything new to add at this point, if you'd like to come forward?
Thank you, Mayor Norris and Commissioners. What I did do, I submitted today a matching funds budget so that you may more clearly see the relationship between the funds asked for and what would be matched in cash and what would be matched in kind. And I'm not sure, do you have those in front of you?
We do. We have all of your papers, I think.
I can take any questions if you have on that. I also believe that you have received letters of support from various businesses, not just on Main Street, but throughout Oregon City.
Why don't, I see Lloyd Purdy, our downtown manager, is also present for questions. So let's go on with the discussion, and then you, if you would stay, then you can respond to whatever needs we might have. Commissioner Smith, you want to start off?
I shared some concerns about this at our last meeting, and I want to make it really clear that I believe that this is, I translated it last time, this is one of the best events in the city, and it's an incredible event, the farmers market itself, and I've been excited to see it grow, and I think really am excited about the opportunities that it has moving in part in Wednesday afternoons in downtown. So I see its merits. I really the market manager is incredible and does a great job. And I do, after last meeting, see there is, a direct business connection here. There are still things that concern me about it, this request, and it has really nothing to do with any of the things that I just spoke about. It really has to do, and most of my concerns do, about process and about how we are occasionally, as a commission, inconsistent in the messages that we send to the community. So I want to speak about those. And I really want to ask a question to the commission as a whole. And so hopefully when everyone speaks about their thoughts on this, I hope they would answer this question. I was talking about the fact that $35,000 is the amount of money we get for an entire year from the business license fees. So what this is saying, what we have to ask ourselves as a commission, I think, is are there any projects in the city, this isn't a question about whether or not this is a good project, it isn't a question about whether it has a connection to business community. The question is, though, are there any other projects in the city that are more worthy of this 1 year of funds? And maybe it is. And so if I really truly believe if the entire commission up here thinks that this project warrants taking an entire year of fees, then I probably can support it. But in the future, we really have to address these concerns that I have. The concerns are this. We have used the business license fund, and this comes up, it seems like every meeting, business license fund. What are the priorities? We don't have priorities for the business license fund. We've never even talked about what the priorities are because they get pushed off aside and we say, well, on this given night, we decide that the money should go to this, or maybe it shouldn't, or maybe this, and if we can't get it from here, where are we going to get it from? We go from meeting to meeting and to meeting, and we never really ask ourselves, what is the priorities for this money? And again, like my concerns with storefront grants and other things in urban renewal, how can we decide where the best place to put this money is if we don't really have a real vision for what this money is supposed to do? Now, obviously, the chamber was instrumental in getting this fund created with the city, and so their input is valuable, and I see there's a letter here from the chamber. But as a commission, we really need to say, what do we want to do with the business fund monies, and what are our priorities for that? Is it economic development? Is it grants for projects? Is it creating new businesses? Is it bringing business in? We don't know what it is. I mean, we haven't really had that discussion, and so I have a hard time, saying this project outmerits other projects because we haven't really talked about where those fit in, any sort of criteria. All I can think about is what we've done in the past. Well, we turned down the chamber's request for rent for space, saying that my opinion was that the chamber doesn't necessarily represent all the businesses in Oregon City, and so is it really fair for all the businesses in Oregon City to pay rent? We had that discussion. Another request, so this commission decided that it wasn't appropriate for us to pay rent for the chamber, We had another discussion about business license fund, whether we wanted to fund staffing for the Willamette Falls Heritage Coalition. We decided we didn't want to do that as a commission. My concerns...
Just out of that fund.
Well, out of that fund, right. The reason for that, in my opinion, was my concerns with that were, one, do we really want to pay for staffing? Do we want to pay for a project that goes beyond the scope of our city limits for a fee that's, given within the city limits? And here's the other one that really bothers me. We have a system set up for great projects in Oregon City. If you have a great project or want to improve or enhance the area, you can apply for Oregon City Civic Improvement Trust, especially if it's an event that brings in people. We have the Metro Enhancement Grant. So there are a process for projects like this to get funded through the city that have a set criteria that we can weigh against all the other projects, so we know that these are how they weigh out, and this is why these ones are getting funded. If this was being presented to either one of those bodies, I would fully support it. There's a timeline issue that I think has come up in terms of that, and I understand that as well. But we also have to think about, as a city, we have actually, even out of the business license, well, out of the grants, because the grants, or OCCIT grants and Metro Enhancement grants, seem to always be in this discussion with the business license priority, because it's either, okay, if we don't get it from there, we're going to get it from there. And I'm concerned by that because we have even told city projects, city-sponsored city projects, Concerts in the Park, another amazing event. It's our event. We're not even funding it. We have already said we aren't going to use business license funds to fund our own projects. So I'm concerned about what that says. I mean, our staff has come to us asking for business license funds, saying we want you to fund Concerts in the Park. We've been asked to fund a trolley in the past from that. We've been asked to fund flower baskets, and we have turned most of those down. So my question is are we're setting an inconsistent precedent in funding a project that is, very much supported by the city. There's no doubt about it. But we're not even funding our own. So I really have concerns about that. I think we really need to come up with a criteria or a focus of what is this business license money supposed to be about. And maybe that's a work with the chamber or whatever to see, so we have some basis. If we fund this project with business license fund, and I know the marketing manager is diligent about everything she does, but we don't have a process with the business license to say, like the grants do, to say there's an exit report, there's an accountability for where this money is actually ending up, and where a report back. We don't have that in this sense, like we do with the grants, so I have a feeling we just don't have a handle on this, and I hate to make a decision tonight that opens the door for everybody in the city, every event planner or every project, to come right directly to the city commission to ask for money right out of our business license fund. So with all those concerns, if this commission truly believes that our priority right now is the farmers market, and that we are willing to commit a whole year of our business license fund to it, I will support it. But I think we really have to answer these questions that I've just asked and actually deal with them, because I think it could...
Oh. Wow. That means your time's up.
That's a sign.
I think that means your time's up. Thank you, Renee. We appreciate that.
Yeah, that's confirmation. So anyway, I guess I think that's all I need to say on that, but I'm anxious to hear what everyone else has to say on those.
Okay. Commissioner Neely.
Well, I share a lot of the same sentiments that Commissioner Smith put forward. I think one of the greatest interests on the part of the Main Street program is to get as many events going and active prior to the closure of the Arch Bridge to attract more people here, and we would hope hold them, at least a good proportion of them, during the period of the bridge closure, and I understand that kind of urgency. I do think we have to build into here some kind of accountability, and one mechanism of it is to split the grant request between the 2 budget years that are affected with a requirement on the first split. I mean, we can't commit monies in the next year, but a requirement on the first split that we then get an interim report, which would be interim, would be about halfway through, I think, your season, right after July 1st, to see how, in fact, things went. And I'm thinking of putting forward such a motion. I've sliced here a 25-10 or a 2015 split, funding the first portion, the larger portion, because I know there are startup costs and all of that, within the current budget year, offering no guarantee that we will actually be funding the second piece. That has to come through the budget process next year, but that would enable us then to get an interim report from the program and find out how successful the program has been and what the potential of future success is. So if I'm the one that puts forward a motion, I think I would do so.
I'd like to actually interject something here. I believe that this is not Jackie's idea, that actually if I'm not mistaken, that Main Street and downtown business owners came to her and said, could you please do this? We really want the activity, we really want to have the people, and so it really is a coalition request. So I kind of want to put that on the table first. And then Mr. Patterson, you're the
Just
next
to
speaker.
add to that, too, neither is the business license her idea as well. It's really, when they brought that to the city, we looked at things, and looking at the time frame, we were looking at where are those monies available. That's one. But let me refresh the council's memory, because we have talked about priorities of the business license, and that was one of the topics of your retreat. And basically, my understanding of what you said the priority is for that annual $35,000 is the economic development manager, and that's what we were going to be funding. So really what you're talking about here is spending those reserves. And you've got 2 programs already that, we'll be looking at this year, Main Street, and then whether you do this will be those reserves, and you do have reserves you can spend. Now, that is a limited duration that you're going to be dealing with those, because those will be being brought down, and of course, you'll see those begin to go back up if we don't have other things we commit to. But they've sat there for many, many years and have not been spent. The question you have really had to ask is this the type of program you want to invest those reserves in, and does this create other types of opportunities in that? Because your long-term commitment is that economic development position. I would add, too, if you would like, I can have Michelle Benville, who runs our OCCIT and Metro, we can set up the same type of accountability program with this, and she can take a look at that and get those in.
She runs our TAP funds, too. Yes, and I actually have no problem with giving the seed money, which would be the first $35,000, but I'm not interested in year 2 and 3 at this point. And I think adding that layer of look, see how to go, what can you do better, what was great, would really be a prudent step. So I think, we've had plenty of discussion. Are you ready for a motion?
I think we have 2 more speakers.
I don't see them there.
Daphne, Commissioner West, and Commissioner
Where will I find them?
Yeah, they're on the floor.
They're not there?
Right here. Then you
I'll look on yours. Okay, sorry, it does not show on mine. Commissioner West. There they are.
Well, there's no question in my mind that this is more than an entertainment event with music, that this is an economic development. 20-some booths, that's 20 different farms being represented, and it's the spin-off business to all the restaurants and furniture stores, the traffic in downtown. It's no question in my mind there. I, too, am only for a first-year commitment at this point. I think that you're going to do so well that that the grant process will handle the follow-ups. I hope would be enough of a guarantee for you. I'm favorable for the interim report. That's very reasonable. And the reason why I feel that this has come up now, it's one of those emergency things, and I wish I could think of all the examples throughout a whole fiscal year of emergency things that come up. The first thing I think of is the swimming pool roof, and we had that wasn't planned, budgeted for. There's many things throughout the year, and so we make a decision one by one on a lot of things, and we prioritize, and if we can afford to do it, we do.
And which
and
fund?
This is not this to me is not a permanent. This is just a one-time thing out of there. And then, as far as your Commissioner Smith's concerns with all of our, the flower baskets and concerts in the park, staff didn't ask us to fund those. Those are all currently funded through a grant process. But I think it was Commissioner Smith, when you came on council, you thought that the city should fund out of our general fund. So yes, we are still challenged to figure if that will be the case. We are still challenged to figure out how to do that. But in the past, they have been successfully handled out of the grant funds. So that's where I think that lies. So enough for me.
Thank you. Commissioner Nocita.
First of all, I want to acknowledge and thank Commissioner Smith for his concerns, because I think they're spot on. And I'm very amenable to working with staff and with the commission to develop a system for establishing priorities for the fund. As it stands now, this fund, I think, is the way it's set up left to the judgment of the commission. And I've been trying to analyze this to the best of my judgment. And after giving it some thought, I find it worthy of support, and I want to say why. I want to share with everybody my question that I gave all the city manager candidates last year, which was, last week. I asked them what I considered to be one of the key questions that a new city manager is going to face, and that is what was their analysis of the economic transition that the national economy is going through right now, and how does that inform the candidates' view on what economic development strategies we should pursue in Oregon City. And frankly, none of the candidates really answered it to my satisfaction. But I think this project is an example of how the answer does get answered satisfactorily to my satisfaction. Namely, I watch us struggle with our North End projects, the Cove and the Rivers, with this massive condo project, luxury condo project, and that was really based on the economy of the bubble, and that economy's gone. It's not coming back. The Rivers project was originally designed to be a lifestyle center, again, the economy of the bubble, and that bubble's burst. That's not coming back. What I do see in is the future of the economy as it's starting to kind of like seed up through all the cracks of that, that past fallen economy. I see it here in Oregon City with groups like Oregon City Local Harvest 2020. The future economy is very grassroots. It's percolating up in the interstices of our own community. And I think as far as investing in projects that are going to give us economic development, investing this money in a downtown market, I think is going to help seed and percolate that kind of economy, both for our downtown and our city. I can see, for example, I've expressed an interest in developing, a critical mass of residential development in Oregon City. I mean, how a downtown market where someone, in a renovated loft is going to be able to go downstairs on a Wednesday, to go to a farmer's market, how that's going to catalyze and make more attractive to developers, some of these older downtown buildings that potentially could be converted to residential development. I think that is exactly the type of economic development that we're looking for with the Business License Fund. We took a tour of the near south side out of the city limits with David Leland several months ago last year. And we talked about how, and Ms. Hammond Williams has mentioned this, how Oregon City's hinterland is very valuable farmland and could support a local food economy to sustain us. How at downtown farmers market creating a critical mass with the uptown farmers market, with stuff that's going on with local Oregon City local harvest, Gwen's business at the Greengrocer. That's the economy. I think I really think that we're looking at cultivating. Mr. Leland mentioned, for example, how Oregon City, based on this farming economy right outside our town, we could develop an added value of farm products just right here in Oregon City, and so this kind of seed money is kind of a good metaphor, because what it could seed as far as economic development for that economy I see coming, the local self-sustaining kind of economy. To say nothing of the fact that I would like to see support for downtown with the approaching bridge renovation. I'm favorable to this request.
One of the terms that's being thrown around lately is economic gardening. So, and that is that you build on those businesses that are already here. So you seed more crops from those businesses, and I see this as kind of an economic gardening. All right, may we have a motion, please? We had plenty of speeches, I think.
Okay. I move approval for a request from Farmers Market for $35,000 for the 2010 Business License Fund, with an interim report that would probably be when? End of summer, is that what you're thinking, or?
End of the project.
Or end of the project report, and what was the other thing? That's it.
Second?
And then end of the project report is not an interim report. No. I would like to see an interim report.
Well, interim and an end of the project
Yeah,
report.
there would be one at the end of the project.
I'll second that.
Okay, moved by Commissioner West, seconded by Commissioner Nocita. Are there any further discussion or clarification needed? If
you're interested,
yeah, if you're
come on up.
interested, certainly. If we do too. Oh, I'm sorry, it didn't.
I'm sorry.
It didn't come up.
Tom O'Brien.
Please, Tom, come forward. Sorry, it didn't make it onto our. We're sometimes technologically limited, so. Thank you for your patience.
Tom O'Brien, Oregon City.
Yes.
I have no feelings one way or the other regarding this expenditure. What I do find very disconcerting is that our city commission, as well as our city staff, would agree to spend possibly as much as $3,500 of the taxpayers' monies in an illegal way. I would ask that the city attorney pull out the section of city code which expressly prohibits the use and display of banners in the city of Oregon City. We are continually violating our own sign codes. Anything that is in the sign industry's consideration a material used for banners, whether it's hanging on the side of a wall, whether it's displayed between two posts, whether it's hanging from strings, if it's made from banner material, it is a banner. And if you don't believe me, get a hold of Signs of the Times magazine in Cincinnati and find out what their classification for signage is. It is not a pedestal sign. It is not channel letters. It is not a backlit sign. It is a banner. And we have scheduled here to spend $3,500 for banners and signs. Now, if you want to spend $3,500 on signs that are legal signs within our city, I'm great with that. But I don't like spending taxpayers' money for illegal things. Could you read that, please?
While they're researching that, can we have Tom Winterrood?
Thank you for your comment.
Let
Let me, Madam Mayor, too, just for clarification, this is business license fees that we're talking
It's not
about.
tax, right, not taxpayer money.
Good evening, Mayor,
Evening.
Commissioners. My name's Tom Winterroad. I'm a farmer 4.5 miles south of Canby and have served on the advisory board of the farmers market for the last year. And I come tonight just to ask for your support of this downtown farmers market. I think there's three main things that stick out in my mind why this is great for the town of Oregon City. The first is it builds community. I come from the farm to the big city of Oregon City, and I walk by the elevator, and it's this great piece of construction from 1955, but if there's no people in it or standing around it, it's just a piece of concrete. And when we had our farmers market this fall, we brought 1,500 people to downtown Oregon City, a town that's busy from 8 to 5, but on Saturday nights, it's 5 or 6 bars, and that's what's in your downtown. And so
That's an underestimate of the
Yeah.
number of bars.
Double that, and then you're about right.
well, that's how many we have in Canby. So I've grown to really love Oregon City. The history and the downtown architecture is just fabulous, and this idea of having people living downtown and bringing humanity back to this place after 5, I think, is so great. And the farmers market is one of those things that will help do that for the town of Oregon City. And when that happens, business will benefit. Throughout America, there's over 5,000 farmers markets, and in all of those markets, the businesses that surround those markets benefit from the increased foot traffic. The second thing is we live in a time where we have great health issues in this country. We're number 22 now in life expectancy in the industrialized world because of obesity and diabetes. And so by having the access to clean, local, fresh food, you're allowing your citizenry access to a healthier food. The third thing is by having a farmer's market downtown, you have the opportunity for 20 local farmers, because most of the farmers in the Oregon City Farmers Market come from Clackamas County. You're supporting local farmers who live outside the city but come back to this town to buy farm tools at Wilco. They come in to see their attorney. They come back to Oregon City and once again support the businesses of this town. And so, as the mayor mentioned earlier, where opportunity knocks, I think this is a wonderful opportunity for the town of Oregon City to have a downtown farmers market and create community in your downtown. And so with that, I do ask for your support.
You have a report on signs.
Sure.
Thank you.
Apologize for not having a right-hand Mayor, members of the commission. Chapter 1528 is our sign code, and 1528.050 lists prohibited signs, and Section G says prohibits the following signs: portable signs, A-frame signs, sandwich boards, tent signs, streamers, strings of lights, balloons, hulas, banners, or pennants, except traditional holiday decorations, and except as provided in Section 1528.10b. 1528.10b goes back and says, scope, all signs shall be erected and maintained only as provided by this chapter, except for the following. And 3 says, signs lawfully erected in the public right-of-way in accordance with applicable state and local laws and regulations. So banners are prohibited, except for those that are accepted out by the signs that are not covered by the scope of it. Essentially what it says is signs in the right-of-way aren't covered by the sign code. So the banners are prohibited, but not in the right-of-way.
And the process they go through to get those.
With the
right-of-way permit with, yes.
Like in the campaign season. Okay. Any questions about signage? Thank you very much. Let's see, we have a motion on the floor. Is there anyone else that wishes to comment, question, or speak to it? All right, Nancy, the vote, please.
Commissioner Neely? Aye. Commissioner West? Aye. Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Nocita?
Aye.
Mayor Norris?
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Go forth and conquer.
Thank you. Comment?
Commissioner Neely.
When, I don't think I was the only one on the commission, but I was here for 3 years running a business out of my house. I was not aware of a business license. When I found out there was one, I actually sent in money for 4 years' worth of business license. They sent back 3 of them and kept the one for the current year in which I was operating the business.
So we should overturn that.
That's
All
too
those in
late.
favor?
It was a staff decision. Anyway.
We can overturn staff.
I wasn't here then.
Nor was I.
In any case, I think we have a lot of businesses that in fact are not paying business licenses, and I don't know how we go through an educational program to deal with that particular question, but I think we have to find a mechanism to do so.
We're actually looking in and working on that issue.
Yes, remember, we had a report from an intern who told us how much we had laid on the table, but it also was we're going to require, a half-time staff person at least, really to help us with that.
Had some technology that might be able to help us.
Oh, good. Would it be a helicopter or something?
Yeah.
Black helicopter.
A drone.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate you. Mr. Purdy.
Your notes, I haven't moved yet. There's 2 more points related to this that we talked about last time.
Introduce yourself.
Sorry,
See if
Lloyd
we can
Purdy
introduce you.
from downtown, representing downtown Oregon City. And I'll speak into the mic. I didn't leave yet because there's 2 points we mentioned last time that I need to see clarified so I can help Jackie move forward with this. One was an original request from her that some level of almost a memorandum of understanding get written so that she has not just some financial support from the city, but she can feel assured that she has city permission to move forward with the market. She has asked for street closure. Is that something we talked about?
Take care of at staff level.
Staff level?
Yeah, right.
Okay.
They can work out those details.
Great. The second one that, pardon me for speaking for you, but I know we talked about last time was the potential for a code adjustment so that the timing is appropriate. Yeah. Right now, my understanding is the code says no farmer's market till after 6. Or either change the code or grant a variance.
Yeah, let's have staff work with that, and if they need to bring something back to us for adjustment, then that will
That's how that
occur.
handles.
We'll just recognize that there may be some hurdles to jump.
Okay, great.
You work with Mr. Conkle on
There'll
that.
be actually, there's a number of different disciplines.
Yeah,
in the
you
city.
cross some departmental lines.
Thanks
Thank you.
Thanks for that direction.
Sure, you bet.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jackie. See you at the market. All right, let's look at Resolution 10-04, which just jumped away again. That's just because you moved it. Yeah.
I just did a timestamp on it.
Yeah, and that always makes it go away. Okay, this is to initiate the vacation of a westerly piece of Main Street located south of Agnes Avenue. And I see we have Bob Collison here for the staff report. Bob.
Madam Mayor and Commissioners, this is a standard initiation, the first step of a vacation. It is a 2-step process. First step is for you to initiate it. We then advertise it in the paper for 2 weeks, and then on the subsequent meeting, we'll bring an ordinance forward for official public hearing and approval. So again, this is just the initiation. I'd be happy to answer any questions if somebody has any.
Do you have questions about this? Commissioner Nocita?
I would like, a discussion of the purpose and intent behind the request for vacation.
Okay. If I could direct you to this exhibit that shows the outline of the actual vacation.
That's the Main Street vacate map?
Yes.
Is that how it's labeled? Thank you.
Exhibit B, right-of-way vacation, or any such map. There's probably several in there that actually are somewhat similar.
Yes.
What we have on Main Street is, over the years, more right-of-way width than is actually needed to build the level of street that we need in that area. And based on the current design of the Main Street improvements, including the roundabout that will provide the new Agnes Avenue intersection. This is the result of the right-of-way portion that's not needed, And so the design of the apartments for the Sladen property, which is immediately behind the shopping center, between the shopping center and Main Street, has taken that into account, and this street vacation will accommodate their actual design layout for some of the buildings.
Questions? Commissioner Nocito, you finished with that?
Okay, I'll have some questions later, but I want to let other commissioners ask questions and discuss it.
Okay, Commissioner Neely.
When we had discussions about Main Street along the Cove, the developers involved brought, in fact, a diagram that showed the presence of a walking path, a swale, a bike path, and the travel lanes. I think when this comes back to us, I mean, this is initiating, I've got no problem passing on it, but when it comes back to us, I'd like actually a conceptual drawing of how we're going to accommodate those various things there within the land that's we still have available to us. So that's a request I would have at the time it comes before.
Right. This one sort of shows a little bit of that if you look at this exhibit, which is
called
right-of-way vacation notice areas, the Cove, and it has some red.
We didn't know how it's labeled because
is it Exhibit A and B?
I don't have an exhibit on it listed on there. I believe you received one of these.
Yes, it looks familiar. Oh, it's the right-of-way map. It's called the right-of-way map.
The right-of-way map?
Yep.
On that, and then, of course, this is a fairly small scale, and we could certainly bring something larger, but generally oriented with the, basically, it would look, well, I'm not sure how you're displaying it, but it would be more or less upside down. That gets you more or less in the north-south orientation. And so you can see that Main Street swings out a little bit, and then it comes into the roundabout immediately north of the street vacation request, which is the hatched area. So, yeah, we can certainly show you the concept there through the roundabout area where we have pedestrian walkways, we have crosswalks, we have, the bicycle. What we've chosen on bicycles is to bring them onto the sidewalk, because a lot of vehicle drivers don't necessarily know how to use the roundabout, and bicyclists, unfortunately, to some degree, are similar. They get a little confused. So what we're planning on doing here is bringing the bicyclists onto a widened sidewalk. It'll be a 10-foot sidewalk, what we call a shared use path, to get them through the roundabout area, and then they'll merge back onto a regular bike path. So we can show you in more detail next time.
What I would like you to do, though, is go back to the diagram that the developer gave us for that Main Street and actually see how it would work with what you're going to extend on the other side of the roundabout.
Well,
that's available.
Yes. I know that at one point, and I'm sure you probably went through the whole process, at one point Main Street was actually going to be completely moved away from the Cove.
That's right.
And now I assume you all realize that now we're back.
We understand that, but that's a diagram we requested as when it was moved back. And so they presented, I asked the question at that time.
Okay.
And so there is a diagram available with the move back.
Have a motion, please.
Wait.
Commissioner Nocito, more.
I have a couple of questions. Okay. I'm embarrassed to have to ask this question because I probably should know better. Doing a vacation like this, are we conveying fee simple title?
Simple answer is no, but the answer you're probably interested in is yes. The Oregon essentially street right-of-way in most circumstances, there are some exceptions, is dedicated to the city in certain ways, and the Oregon courts have held that to be an easement right that the city essentially maintains and has control over. So when we vacate it, essentially we are removing the easement from the property, and the fee ownership remains in the adjacent owner. So fee title does not change.
They own this land now?
They have rights in that land.
Well, here's where I'm getting at. There seems to be, as a matter of real estate law, or just common sense, some value that we're conveying by doing this vacation. Are we demanding anything in compensation for that?
The way the Oregon statutes work, we cannot require.
Cannot require.
Right. If when we vacate it, the land is required to go to the adjoining property owners, and there is no compensation. That goes back to the idea that it's an easement. When we decide we no longer need it for right-of-way, it goes back to the adjoining property owners, regardless of how valuable it may be.
Well, thank you for that. That's good information.
At some point, Mr. Parker probably gave us that property. I mean, we may have paid him for it, I don't know, but it no doubt probably came out of his property when we sliced through there to go back to the park.
Commissioner Neely?
Although clearly the property owner had value when a street was put in there, the fact is we took away from that person the value of being able to develop that parcel. So essentially what we're doing is giving back that value that was taken away at one point.
Yeah.
I guess my follow-up question to the question I asked Mr. Kabizon, and Bob kind of made the point, or someone made the point, that we were going to move Main Street when we were dealing with the Kaiser proposal, and then they backed out. This project, the apartment complex, is not financed yet, and we have no guarantees that it will be financed. I guess what I'm concerned about is surrendering our interests. We have no way of foreseeing what any future alternative might be, whether or not we will be interested in any alternatives down the road if something happens to this proposal. I don't know that I'm interested in doing this until we know that project's financed, or as an alternative, making this contingent upon such financing.
Now, is this premature or reversible?
Well, this is similar to Partlow Road. I know a couple of you were on when we did that for the previous
Developers agreement.
The Modena
Developers agreement.
Developers agreement. You passed that vacation, but we're still not having recorded it yet because it's contingent upon the new street being built first, okay? I mean, we're not going to give up half of a street because the other street hasn't been built yet. So I would highly recommend it. Yeah, we could definitely make this contingent upon the closure of the loan, or, whatever our attorney or you folks would deem, the appropriate time.
Do you have a recommendation on that?
I certainly can have one when we bring it to you. I hadn't, thought through what we'd make it contingent upon. I
Don't
would
necessarily
imagine,
have to do that tonight.
We don't necessarily. No, this is just initiating. One thing would be similar to Partlow, which would be make the vacation contingent upon construction of the new road, so that we know we have a road in place. Regardless of what happens with the apartments, what we want to do is make sure we have the road there and that the right of way continues.
Now, you ready for a motion, please?
I don't think there's any problem with making a motion to initiate it, and so I'm
Commissioner
going to move to approve resolution number 1004, initiating the vacation of a westerly section of Main Street located south of Agnes Avenue.
Second?
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Neely, seconded by Commissioner West. On the motion, is there further comment? Nancy, vote, please.
Commissioner Neely?
Aye.
Commissioner West? Aye. Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Nocita?
Aye.
Mayor Norris?
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Next, we have Resolution 1005, accepting...
It's going to jump.
It jumps to the top.
When you choose move the next active item, it always resets.
It always resets, and so we can't see it. Accepting, well, I can't. Resolution 1005, accepting jurisdictional transfer of McCord Road from Clackamas County. And Bob, are you the staff person to give us the report on
Mayor,
this? Thank you.
Commissioners, a fairly simple one. We have been in discussions with the county for several years about various portions or all of certain county roads within the city to be transferred to us, generally precipitated by development. And in this case, it was, in fact, Pavilion Park subdivision that bordered on a couple hundred feet of McCord Road, which was at that time a county road. And in order for them to build the half-street improvements, at that point, the county insisted that they have to go through the county process of construction reviews and whatnot. And we were interested in, again, helping the developer, get through the process, and had every intention of taking over that portion of McCord. The county was nice enough at that point, clear back in June, when we approved the construction project, to allow, yes, we'll let them be reviewed by the city as long as you guys process the appropriate paperwork. And here we are 8 months later. The county actually drew a line in the sand and said, not until we see the signed resolution will we release the plat. So unfortunately, the developer is being held hostage here at this point, awaiting your approval for this. There are many, I would say, several other county roads that you'll be seeing here in the near future as well, but this one we felt was an easy one. Let me explain why. Really the key thing here is compensation for taking over one of their roads. I mean, if it happens to be a glorious, perfect road, that's not a big issue. But we know that's rarely the case. So in this case, it actually is in pretty decent shape. The developer did their half-street improvement across their frontage. We're not taking all of McCord. We're only taking it from the eastern edge of that development all the way up to Pease Road. And the rest of it is in decent shape because they just paved it in '07. So we don't see any need for compensation at this point on this. So that's why we're bringing it forward for your approval at this point. So
Any
I'd be
questions?
happy to answer any questions.
Questions or a motion, please?
You got a question?
I do, Commissioner Neely.
The gray areas that we have on this map, are those county properties?
No, that's a annexation issue. Mr. Conkle still has a few issues to complete for an annexation packet that will truly finalize the property being in the city. For all intents and purposes, we recognize it as being in the city, but the mapping hasn't changed yet because we haven't got final.
Is this anything that has to go to a voter's approval annexation, or so? So we're not going to create an island in this process.
Oh no.
No, all we're doing is
Well,
taking
great,
over.
but it indicated we were going to.
All of that's been annexed now
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, but it wasn't clear what the
and
gray
approved
meant.
by the voters. Right.
Okay. Okay. Ready for a motion, please? Commissioner West.
One quick question. When I was reading your report, it said that this road was classified as an arterial, and I would have guessed it would have been a little farther down the scale than an arterial, but
Well,
with volume of traffic.
yes.
I just thought it was interesting.
Yeah, it is an arterial, even on the county classifications. I guess you might be surprised that quite a few people probably do cut through there, but it's really is a cut through as opposed to, depending on what you run into elsewhere, you might go from there over to Leland to Central Point. But yeah, it's one that we kind of hope fades into the background. And the reason I say that is that we built out the new Redaway Street all the way from Leland now. This Pavilion Park finalizes it all the way to Pease. So, and we did build it slightly wider so that it actually has bike lanes. So we're hoping it eventually will overtake McCord in usage. I mean, we can't force people to do it, but I think they will kind of naturally figure it out on their own.
Alternative anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, ready for the motion? We have floor, so go ahead.
I move approval of resolution number 10-05, accepting jurisdictional transfer of a portion of McCord Road from Clackamas County.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner West, seconded by Commissioner Smith. Seeing no further comment, Nancy, the vote, please.
Commissioner Neely?
Aye.
Commissioner West? Aye. Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Nocita?
Aye.
Mayor Norris?
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Next we have agenda. May I have a motion for adoption?
Move approval.
Second. Moved by Commissioner West, seconded by Commissioner Smith.
Speed meeting now.
On the consent agenda, Nancy, the vote, please.
Commissioner Neely?
Well, I want to say aye, but
Just say it. Just say it. Just say it.
I said it.
Commissioner West? Aye. Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Nocita?
Aye.
Mayor Norris?
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Moving into reports, first we will begin with our city manager.
Madam Mayor, I have nothing
Patterson.
to report.
Well, that's a good report. Unfortunately, I have more on mine. Two actually pretty important things. One is a report from South Fork Water Board, unless one of my colleagues likes to
thank
give it. And if I can find my...
You do a fine job.
Yeah,
she does,
pass
doesn't
the
she?
buck, pass the buck. Gotta find my report. South Fork Water Board is going to be bringing some business to you because at our last meeting of South Fork Water Board, we discussed that South Fork Water Board is technically not meeting our bond covenants, and that's due to the economic downturn, which means that there are fewer SDC funds coming in, and we've got legal fees as well as some employee costs. So, because the bond covenants require it, we're doing a feasibility study, and will be presented to South Fork Water Board at our Thursday meeting, not tomorrow, but a week from tomorrow. And following that, recommendations will come to the City of Oregon City, and so at our March 17th meeting, John Collins, the Water Board manager, and Randy Goff, who you've seen here many times with utilities, will be presenting his recommendations and options on how to solve that issue. So that's one. The second one is a report from the TDC, the Tourism Development Council, where we discussed the TAP, the Tourism Action Plan that we do every year, which provides us, in the past, $30,000 worth of funding. However, the TDC has had hearings and is changing that, and this was a meeting of managers of the program to tell us what the changes are about. And they will be these. Instead of the $30,000 annually and the update of our TAP each year, they will now, the first year, this is, I'm not sure it's set in stone yet. I'm not sure they've totally approved it. I think the next meeting they will. But it'll be $15,000. And the next year, it'll go to $12,000. And the reason, but it will be less onerous. I don't think it's onerous anyway, but there were many people around the table who weren't as successful as Oregon City, so it will have fewer strings on that money. But the good news is that the savings that they are going to incur will go into 3 new programs. One is a major development grant, which for the first year will be $117,000 that you have to apply for. The next year, that'll go up to 48% of the total, which is $182,000. So I'll tell you what that means in a minute. The second one is an opportunity grant, which is seed money. And so there's $33,000 available first year, $45,000 the second. If you have a program that you just really want to get off the ground, I guess like the farmer's market, but it has to meet the criteria of tourism. And then the Community Partners Grant will essentially be like the old TAP, something that is in your Tourism Action Plan identified as a need. The good news for Oregon City, I think, is that as we have in the past, we can put our annual allocation of like $15,000, and the major development grants can be like it can be multi-year. So let's say we wanted to do something at the end of the Trail Interpretive Center, whatever plan it might be. We could offer that it's a 3-year opportunity. We could apply for $100,000 even, and there's no limit. We just have to convince them that it meets the criteria of putting heads in beds, which is the major goal of the Tourism Development Council. So that is really a huge change. We'll be getting together the Tourism Committee to talk about that, because these applications will be, they start actually July 1. And I don't think the application form is actually out yet, because they were seeking our input. But that's a big change, and if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Those are the 2 major ones. And then yes.
I was, the development grant versus the opportunity grant. I see what an opportunity grant. What's the development grant?
The development grant is projects that you would probably have partnerships. It might be multiple years, and they're available to more than just tourism entities. So they're available to the public or public-private partnerships and to nonprofit organizations. So they're actually broader. So if we wanted to put together a conglomeration of people and apply for, again, $100,000 or $50,000 or whatever, that's also bigger. So $30,000 was the maximum we could apply for, except for marketing in the past. So this opens up, they believe, new opportunities. And I think the subtle undertone of the meeting, which doesn't apply to us, because as you know, we are the only city that supposedly does tourism, which you don't do very well. Most in 100% of the other communities in Oregon, in Clackamas County, the Chamber of Commerce does it. So they really like what we do because we do very concrete projects. And I think the subtle undertone of the meeting was that that the TDC might be concerned that Chambers of Commerce might be using their funds to supplement their operations. I'm not sure that's true. There was a lot of argument about that at the meeting, but I think that's why it has evolved this way. The members of the council really want more, I think, things on the ground. If there are no further questions. And then I will be at the JPAC, Joint Policy Advisory Committee on Transportation, all next week, where just to remind you, the number one project for Clackamas County, and therefore on the JPAC list, which is the 3 counties in Metro, consolidating our requests for funding from our federal partners, is Oregon City's Main Street project, the sidewalks and streetscape from 5th to 15th. So I think it's pretty incredible that Clackamas County and all of the cities have endorsed that as the number one project because they understood, I think, the relationship to economic development and the effects that this would have on mitigation for our downtown businesses because of the closure of the Arch Bridge. So I'm really pretty delighted about that. So I'll be going around. Actually, this time I think we're in a room and all of the our senators and our congressional members will be coming to us. So we have 2 days of meetings. So, other reports from committees that you all, where you represent us?
Yeah.
If you'd like to. I'd say Commissioner Neely.
Well, okay.
It's not on mine, but...
No, I hadn't punched anything, but if you're going to go ahead and call me, I'll go ahead and speak.
Well, now I see Commissioner West.
Okay.
Just got reversed. I don't know where you went.
You've got to take your turn.
I don't understand why it's different there.
Sure.
Well,
Look again.
I know, the
Go
agenda.
up, look on the floor, on the floor.
You have
on
to
the
select
floor.
your item.
On the floor.
I did, and it went off again. Okay, Commissioner Smith.
Well, now
I was officially.
Is he actually the only one?
he's usurped all of
And I don't even have a report.
Okay. Commissioner
But I do want to. I ask for an update. Do we have a timeline on the south end traffic light? We never were told when or a timeline, and we kind of threw a bone to the neighborhood saying it was going to be fixed, and now they're starting to. They still haven't found it, and they're wondering when it's actually going to happen.
We have that issue with Clackamas County.
So do we know? Like, are we talking this year?
Yeah, well, they're working on it. I don't have a timeline. I'll see if I can get one because Nancy,
It's
been out
been
with
out,
surgery,
yeah.
so
Yeah.
I'll find that out for you.
Okay, thank you.
I'll get an email to you.
I missed the CIC.
So I believe we had a memo that said that there was an issue with Clackamas County that had to be worked out, so...
And I don't recall what that
Yeah, I don't think it was resolved. Okay, Commissioner Nocita.
One report, I was pleased to attend the most recent meeting of the Park Place Neighborhood Association. And we heard a presentation by Mr. Ziegler and Mr. Ziegler regarding their plans for the 53 acres annexation vote. And we also heard a presentation by Trell, I think his name is? Yes. Anderson?
Trell Anderson.
Yeah, regarding Clackamas Heights. And that was the first time I'd seen the site plan for that, and I was really, really impressed by that, and I'm very excited about that project.
Really good project.
That's it.
Okay, you
Succinct.
didn't give us much content there.
Succinct.
But did you need to,
It's 5 minutes till 10 o'clock, and I was
well, good,
I
I
wanted
appreciate that.
kind of like keep it short so everybody could
Yeah.
get out of here.
I know, I think that would be more valuable, though, to say what the content
Yeah.
was, that what you learned, so you can share that with us rather than just
And that'll be
attend it.
coming before commission.
Okay, yeah, you can do that in email. Okay, Commissioner West. Neely.
Thank you.
You are second. You got to be quicker on the trigger finger, just like Jeopardy.
Let me state
Yeah.
what the problem is. We have two different windows, and you can request to speak under one window and request on the other one, and the one window you're not supposed to be using, and the other one you are supposed to be using, and it's still very confusing. But I finally got it.
Need a training.
And,
I think I got it. I have it now, too. Yeah, it was on the item.
Commissioner Smith could have yielded it to me when...
He could have, but he did not.
He did, but...
It is almost 10.
Commissioner Sell, myself, Lloyd Purdy, Scott Archer, and Terry Bankhead had a telephone conference. We have developed a personal services agreement with AMJ Planning and Research.
Yes.
What did I
AMS.
say? J. I'm even looking at it. It's an AMS.
Can I read your own writing?
No, this is even a printed document.
I would confess to that.
Well, you asked the question. I had to be honest. Anyway, which they haven't signed, but we do have a personal services agreement not to exceed $40,000, and we've mapped out the beginning of a timeline. But one of the things, and about the second week in April, is that correct? When we were 6th, 7th, and 8th in April, the representative will be coming out, but we're going to be providing identification of groups that would contain likely stakeholders. When I'm talking about groups, I'm not talking about specific museums, but museums is a category, various categories of possible stakeholders that would be involved in the process. They could involve educational institutions.
Yeah, remember we provided that in the RFP. Yeah, no, for that. We provided a huge list that we looked at a work session several times, so I'll email that to you. Pretty
Okay.
extensive.
Well, what was our discussion, Mr. Archer?
Well, we'll have to review that. If that's in the RFP, we'll definitely want to make sure that the consultant's aware of that. And then I think the idea was that at some point we would circle back and just at least bring that back and touch base with the commission on the proposed task force makeup and make sure that you at least are in agreement with that.
I'll send you the list, because it was a pretty extensive list of things. Great, that's good to get that started. Okay, if there's no further business, Daphne, Commissioner West.
I'm going to keep it very short. I'd like to just announce an event. This Friday is First Friday in the Art Walk, downtown Oregon City. Over 30 locations will be open. We're going to start a little earlier for spring now, so it'll be starting at 5 till 8 o'clock. Just come on downtown or on 7th Street or Main Street, Washington Street or 7th Street. And we have a newly open business. It's called Oh Shiny. It's an artisan market at 216 14th Street. That's the street by Tony's there. So so that would be a great place to start, welcome a new business and see what kind of, I have not met Tanya Meyer, but see what kind of artist and entrepreneur she is and what she has to sell in her shop. And so join us.
Great. Good invitation. Thank you. We are adjourned.